Welcome to the world of Hollywood glamour, luxury, and behind the scenes, the shadows that linger long after the stars have gone. The Beverly Hills Hotel, affectionately known as the Pink Palace, is more than just a symbol of opulence. It is a monument steeped in history, scandals, and rumors of the supernatural. Since opening its doors in 1912, this iconic hotel has hosted celebrities, moguls, and royalty. But it has also collected stories of ghostly encounters, unexplained noises, and eerie presences that continue to intrigue and terrify visitors. The Polo Lounge, nestled within the iconic Beverly Hills Hotel, has long been a symbol of glamour, luxury, and celebrity allure. Its velvet-lined booths and softly glowing chandeliers have hosted countless stars, socialites, and world leaders over the decades. Yet, behind the laughter, clinking glasses, and smooth jazz drifting from the bandstand, a different presence lingers, one that is far less visible and infinitely more mysterious. Those who have spent time in this storied lounge often speak in hushed tones of a shadowy figure, a phantom who moves silently among the tables, observing the living with an attention that is impossible to ignore. Staff members were among the first to take notice. Bartenders described the sudden chill that sweeps through the room on nights when no windows are open. A cold that seems to brush past them, leaving goosebumps along their arms. Glasses and silverware occasionally shift without explanation, tipping slightly as if a phantom hand has passed by. Waiters and waitresses report the strange sensation of being watched, the feeling of eyes resting on them when no one could possibly be present. Sometimes, when they turn abruptly, they glimpse a fleeting figure at the edge of their vision, a man in early 20th century attire, his form almost translucent, yet unmistakably therefore, just a heartbeat before vanishing. Guests, too, have encountered the mysterious presence. A couple enjoying an intimate dinner on a quiet evening described the sudden dip in temperature, their breath misting in the air as if the room had suddenly been transported to a winter night. Across the table, their wine glasses tilted as if caught by a gentle, unseen force. A young actress dining alone later recounted that she had seen a man in a bowler hat and three-piece suit gliding past the booths, his shoes making no sound against the polished floor. She had instinctively looked away, only to realize that when she dared to glance back, he had disappeared entirely, leaving only the lingering sense of a presence that had been close enough to feel. The origins of the phantom are steeped in speculation. Some historians suggest he may have been a regular patron during the hotel's early decades, a man who frequented the Polo Lounge when it first became a social hub for Hollywood's elite. Perhaps he was a wealthy studio executive, a silent observer of the burgeoning film industry, whose love for the lounge and its vibrant energy anchored his spirit to the space even after death. Others argue that he may have been a musician or entertainer, someone intimately connected with the nightly performances, who continues to wonder, checking that the atmosphere of elegance and glamour remains untouched by time. Occasionally, the figure interacts with the environment in subtle, almost playful ways. Staff have reported wine bottles slightly nudged, menus that seem to slide across the table on their own, and chairs scraping gently as though someone had just risen from them. These incidents are never violent, nor are they threatening. Yet they evoke an eerie awareness that the room is not entirely occupied by the living. It is as if the phantom has become part of the Polo Lounge itself, an invisible custodian who continues to perform his quiet rounds in the shadows, ensuring that the lounge retains the same vibrancy it held a century ago. Photographs taken in the lounge sometimes capture unusual phenomena. In a series of snapshots from a private party, some guests noticed faint outlines or blurred shapes standing in corners where no one was physically present. One striking image seemed to reveal a man in vintage attire, his features obscured yet unmistakably human in form, positioned near the bar. These photographs have fueled conversations among paranormal enthusiasts and historians alike, offering tantalizing proof that the legend of the Polo Lounge phantom is more than mere rumor. The phantom's presence is also said to extend to the music that fills the lounge. Pianists recount moments when a melody seems to shift mid-performance, the notes taking on a subtly different rhythm, as if someone unseen has touched the keys. The air itself can feel charged with a strange vibrancy, as though the lounge exists simultaneously in two eras, the glamorous present and the ghostly past. This duality is part of what makes encounters so unsettling. The figure does not frighten in a traditional sense, but his presence is a reminder of the persistence of history and memory, of the thin boundary between the living and the spectral. Despite the unsettling occurrences, many who have experienced a phantom report a sense of awe rather than fear. There is something quietly majestic about the way the figure moves, a grace that mirrors the elegance of the polo lounge itself. Regular patrons often feel honored to share the space, even briefly, with this lingering echo of the past. It is as if the lounge has absorbed the essence of its most devoted visitors, preserving them as guardians of the atmosphere they once cherished. Guests leave with stories that straddle disbelief and wonder, tales of a place where the golden age of Hollywood still whispers through the curtains, unseen yet undeniably present. The staff, meanwhile, have grown accustomed to the strange occurrences. They no longer startle at cold drafts or the subtle nudging of objects. Instead, they treat them as part of the daily rhythm, a supernatural accompaniment to the polished service they provide. In training sessions, new employees are cautioned about the possibility of the phantom, advised to remain professional yet respectful. There is an understanding that this is a presence to be acknowledged, not challenged, and that its continued residence is part of what makes the Polo Lounge iconic. In essence, the Polo Lounge phantom is a living memory, a bridge between eras, a quiet witness to the evolution of a cultural institution. Whether he is a man who loved the lounge in life or a spirit bound to the energy of social engagement, his presence reminds visitors that places steeped in history can retain more than just stories. They can retain the echoes of those who once moved among them. Every whispered anecdote, every unexplained shift of an object, every fleeting glimpse contributes to the mythos, enriching the experience of the lounge and deepening the sense of wonder for those who walk its hallowed halls. Ultimately, the shadowy figure in the Polo Lounge is less a ghost of terror and more a testament to the enduring allure of the Beverly Hills Hotel. He lingers not to harm, but to witness, to continue participating in the social theater he once loved. For anyone who has glimpsed him or felt the chill of his presence, the experience is unforgettable. A reminder that in places like the Polo Lounge, history is never truly gone. The past lives on in subtle ways, and sometimes it drifts silently among the tables, unseen yet profoundly felt. The Beverly Hills Hotel has long been synonymous with Hollywood glamour, luxury, and the mystique of its legendary guests. Among these, one star shines brighter in both life and afterlife: Marilyn Monroe. Her association with the hotel is well documented, and for decades, her presence has been felt in ways that transcend photographs, memorabilia, or the whispers of gossip. Employees, long accustomed to the ebb and flow of celebrity life, have told stories of encounters that suggest the iconic actress never fully left the place she loved. The phenomenon is subtle, yet persistent, leaving a lasting impression on those who have witnessed it. It begins often in the hotel's hallways, particularly on the upper floors where Monroe stayed during her many visits. Staff report seeing a radiant figure, unmistakably female, gliding silently through corridors, her white dress flowing as if caught in an invisible breeze. There is a soft luminescence to her form, as though the very essence of Marilyn herself is present. And though she rarely speaks, her presence carries a sense of calm, elegance, and unmistakable familiarity. Guests passing through the same hallways sometimes feel a sudden chill, as if the temperature has subtly shifted, and a faint fragrance of Chanel No. 5 fills the air, her signature perfume, lingering where no physical source exists. The rooms where Monroe once stayed are said to be the epicenter of these sightings. Staff describe the pink-furnished suites, adorned with opulent decor and garden views, as spaces where the actor's spirit is particularly active. Sometimes housekeeping personnel notice objects slightly out of place, a curtain swaying gently when no windows are open, a chair shifted by a few inches, or a dress laid across a chaise appearing to have been touched. These occurrences are never violent or threatening. Rather, they feel intimate, almost as if Monroe is moving through her old surroundings in quiet recollection. Witnesses have recounted moments where her figure appears in the reflection of mirrors or polished surfaces. One concierge described checking the hallway for a guest in a large ornate mirror, catching a glimpse of a blonde woman smiling faintly at her. When he turned, no one was there, yet the warmth of the encounter lingered, leaving a sense of presence that was both comforting and eerie. In other cases, guests report seeing a soft glow or silhouette pass across the room, particularly near the windows that frame the lush gardens. Some have even claimed that the garden itself seems alive during these moments, the wind whispering through the trees as though acknowledging her spectral form. Perhaps the most captivating aspect of Marilyn Monroe's ghostly presence is the way it interacts with the senses. Several employees describe the subtle perfume as a herald of her appearance. It may arrive before she is visible, or linger long after she disappears. A bellhop reported walking past a suite and catching a faint scent of Chanel No. 5, only to find the room empty. Another staff member described the sensation of a soft touch on the arm, as if guiding her past a hallway or drawing attention to something in the suite. These gentle, almost playful interactions leave witnesses with the distinct impression that Monroe's spirit is aware, attentive, and protective of her former home. There are tales of more direct visual sightings as well. Guests recount seeing a woman in a white dress sitting on a bed or gazing out over the gardens from a window, only for her to vanish when approached. Some report hearing faint laughter, the kind that conveys warmth and charm, echoing softly through the corridors late at night. Others describe a sense of being watched, not with malice, but with curiosity and familiarity, as if the star herself is observing the lives of those who now inhabit the spaces she once called her own. Historians and paranormal enthusiasts have speculated on why Monroe might linger at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Some suggest that her deep affection for the hotel, combined with her untimely death, has anchored her spirit to the physical locations she cherished. Others believe it may be her love of attention and performance that continues to draw her into the spaces where glamour and celebrity remain vibrant. Whatever the reason, there is little doubt among witnesses that her presence is tangible, distinct, and imbued with the same charisma and magnetism she exuded in life. Even longtime staff have adapted to her ghostly presence, treating sightings and subtle phenomena as part of their work environment. New employees are often warned about the possibility of encountering Marilyn's specter, and they are encouraged to acknowledge her with quiet respect. This approach reflects the understanding that her presence is not threatening. Rather, it is a continuation of the charm and elegance that she brought to the hotel during her lifetime. In many ways, the hotel has become a living museum of her memory, preserving both her legacy and her lingering presence for generations of staff and guests alike. The interplay between the luxurious reality of the Beverly Hills Hotel and the ethereal presence of Marilyn Monroe creates a unique atmosphere. Walk through the pink-suited corridors or pause by the garden view windows, and there is a sense that history and the present coexist. Her ghost is not a reminder of death, but of an enduring essence, a connection between past and present that reminds visitors of the magic, glamour, and humanity that defined her life. Ultimately, Marilyn Monroe's spectral presence at the Beverly Hills Hotel is less about fear and more about fascination. It is an elegant haunting, one that leaves a sense of wonder, nostalgia, and reverence. Patrons who encounter her often describe a mixture of awe and tranquility, a reminder that the hotel, much like Monroe herself, is a place where legend and reality intertwine. Her spirit walks the hallways, drifting through the suites, lingering in the gardens, and exuding the timeless allure of one of Hollywood's most iconic figures. For those who have witnessed even a trace of her, the experience becomes unforgettable, subtle yet powerful echo of stardom that refuses to fade, keeping Marilyn Monroe forever present at the Beverly Hills Hotel. The Beverly Hills Hotel, with its pink facade palm-lined entrance, and legendary reputation, is home to countless stories of Hollywood glamour, luxury, and the whispers of those who came before. Among the many ghosts said to inhabit its halls, one presence stands out less for glamour and more for quiet, unseen dedication. The spirit known to staff as the bellman's unseen helper. Unlike the well-documented specters of celebrities like Marilyn Monroe, this ghost is humble, diligent, and deeply connected to the routines of the hotel, ensuring that guests' belongings are attended to long after its physical form has departed. The legend begins with accounts from the bell service, the department responsible for welcoming guests and managing their luggage. Many long-term employees recall evenings when the hotel is quieter than usual, the bustling crowds reduced to a few late-night arrivals, yet strange occurrences begin to unfold. Heavy trunks shift slightly on their own, sometimes moving across the marble floors or rearranging themselves neatly near the elevators. Valises and suitcases seem to slide a few inches as if being guided by invisible hands. And sometimes, on rare occasions, a bag will appear to have been positioned perfectly outside a room without any staff having touched it. At first, new employees are skeptical, attributing these incidents to misremembered actions, drafts, or the natural settling of the building. But the frequency and consistency of the occurrences gradually convince even the most rational of workers that something unusual is at play. Those who have worked night shifts or handled the late arrivals are particularly attuned to these anomalies. One bellman described stacking a set of suitcases on a luggage cart, only to turn away for a moment, and upon looking back, finding that the trunks had shifted into a perfectly balanced formation impossible to have been done by him or anyone else in the brief interval. Many attribute these happenings to the spirit of a former bellman, someone who clearly took pride in his work and was dedicated to the comfort and satisfaction of guests. In life, this bellman was said to be meticulous, polite, and diligent, someone who ensured that each arrival received personal attention, that luggage was never misplaced, and that the hotel's high standard of service was upheld. In death, it seems this commitment persists, manifesting in subtle but unmistakable ways. The movements of the ghost are never threatening. Rather, they convey a sense of careful attention, as if the bellman is quietly performing his duties from beyond the veil. Staff often report that the activity is most pronounced in the late-night hours, between shifts or when the hotel's energy has settled into quiet hums and distant echoes. In these moments, the air seems to carry a certain weight, a gentle presence hovering near carts and trunks. The sound of sliding luggage across polished floors is accompanied by the faint sensation of another presence, almost like the soft brushing of a sleeve or the gentle nudge of a hand. No one has ever seen a full figure, but the traces left behind, the perfectly aligned bags, the subtle rearrangement of objects speak of a caretaker's invisible touch. Guests themselves are rarely aware of the phenomenon, though some have reported minor oddities. A suitcase positioned slightly differently than when it was left, or a garment draped neatly on a chair in a way it was not before. These occurrences are so subtle and benign that most dismiss them as minor housekeeping coincidences. But for the Bell staff, the evidence accumulates, creating a narrative of devotion that transcends death. The bellman's unseen helper is less a source of fear than a symbol of enduring professionalism. A quiet echo of a person whose pride in his work was so strong that it continues long after life has ended. The spirit seems to have rules, boundaries even, respecting the living while continuing its invisible labor. It never harms, frightens, or interferes with the daily operations of the hotel. In fact, many staff members describe the ghost as almost protective, subtly guiding luggage away from danger, or ensuring that arrivals experience seamless service, even in the absence of a human bellman. This benevolent presence has fostered a sense of camaraderie among employees, who leave small tokens of respect like polished handles, neatly stacked carts, or whispered thank yous, to acknowledge the unseen helper's ongoing efforts. Paranormal investigators and curious guests have occasionally attempted to document the phenomenon. Cameras set up near luggage areas sometimes capture faint movements, brief shadows, or slight shifts in objects that defy explanation. While the footage is never conclusive, the consistency of eyewitness accounts provides compelling testimony. Over the years, stories of the bellman's unseen helper have become a cherished part of the hotel's lore, blending seamlessly with tales of famous residents, haunted suites, and spectral glamour. The legend serves as a reminder that not all hauntings are dramatic or terrifying. Some are quiet, subtle, and deeply human, reflecting the values and character of the person left behind. In the case of the Beverly Hills Hotel, the unseen helper embodies the spirit of service, loyalty, and diligence, a ghost that does not frighten, but instead comforts, organizes, and upholds the traditions of excellence that have defined the hotel for generations. For those who work the night shifts or find themselves alone in the halls, the experience is more than just a story, is a living memory, a tangible connection to the past. There is a sense of reassurance in knowing that the hotel's care extends beyond the physical realm, that even when human hands are absent, dedication continues unseen. The bellman's unseen helper is a unique figure among the hotel's many legends. Unlike glamorous celebrity apparitions or dramatic spectral sightings, this presence is subtle, practical, and quietly omnipresent. It reminds staff and visitors alike that hauntings can be gentle, that spirits can embody values, and that even the most ordinary duties, when performed with devotion, may linger long after death. In the grand halls and quiet corridors of the Beverly Hills Hotel, the traces of this devoted ghost continue to appear nightly, a silent testament to a life of service and the enduring power of dedication beyond the grave. Room 1205 of the Beverly Hills Hotel has long carried a reputation that whispers through staff corridors and lingers in hushed guest conversations. Unlike the more glamorous hauntings associated with celebrities or opulent suites, this room exudes an unsettling, quiet energy that seems to watch, wait, and react to those who enter. Guests who have stayed there often leave with stories of experiences so subtle yet persistent that they cannot be dismissed as coincidence or imagination. Reports begin with the most innocuous of disturbances. Whispers. Guests speak of soft murmurs that arise in the still of the night, barely audible but distinct enough to cause the heart to quicken. The voices seem to ebb and flow, sometimes forming syllables that remain just out of comprehension. Some describe the whispers as calm, almost soothing, while others find them urgent, like a warning or a plea. The sound often comes from the corners of the room, near the windows, or from behind closed doors, and it vanishes as mysteriously as it appears, leaving only a lingering unease. Footsteps are another common phenomenon. Guests have reported the soft, deliberate pacing of someone walking across the suite. Sometimes it circles the room, stopping at the doorway or the edge of the bed, only to recede again. Many have looked toward the source, expecting to see hotel staff or a fellow guest, but the room remains empty. The steps are rarely loud. They are measured, almost purposeful, and accompanied by a feeling that the presence moving is aware of the living occupant, observing them without interruption. Doors in room 1205 are also known to act independently. Guests often awaken to find the door slightly ajar, despite having locked it before sleep. Others have found it securely locked one moment and then unlocked the next without explanation. Some doors move with a slow, almost deliberate motion, swinging as if guided by an unseen hand. The subtle creak of hinges is enough to awaken the most exhausted visitor, and the phenomenon seems to carry an intelligence, sometimes locking out intrusions, sometimes opening as if inviting observation. Curtains flutter without wind, adding to the room's eerie ambience. On still nights, the fabric will sway or billow, as though something invisible is brushing past. Some guests interpret the motion as playful, almost teasing, while others sense a more somber or watchful energy. The combination of movement and the presence of whispering voices creates an atmosphere that is both delicate and menacing, a spectral stage set for unseen activity. The sensation of being watched is perhaps the most universally reported experience in room 1205. Occupants frequently describe an awareness, a prickling feeling along the skin, or a mental impression that the room's energy is focusing intently upon them. It is a presence that cannot be physically perceived, but is profoundly felt. Some have said that when they look into mirrors, shadows seem to linger longer than they should, or that fleeting shapes move just beyond the edge of vision. Others simply feel a quiet attentiveness, as if the room itself has a consciousness that observes without interruption. Staff members of the hotel have learned to respect room 1205, acknowledging the reports without dismissing them. High-profile guests or celebrities are often rerouted to alternative suites when possible, minimizing the risk of an uncomfortable or unnerving encounter. Housekeeping and maintenance personnel follow strict protocols when entering, frequently working in pairs and performing tasks with deliberate speed and efficiency to avoid lingering longer than necessary. Even among staff, stories of odd noises, unexplained cold spots, and shifting objects in the room circulate, creating a quiet acknowledgement of the suite's unusual nature. Some have speculated about the origin of room 1205's restless energy. Theories range from residual hauntings, echoes of past events imprinted on the space, to the lingering presence of someone with unfinished business. Unlike the ghostly celebrity sightings elsewhere in the hotel, room 1205 lacks the glamour or recognition of fame, which adds to its mystique. The activity is persistent, yet subdued, focused more on observation and subtle influence than dramatic apparitions or outbursts. This has led many to believe that the room's spirit, if indeed a spirit exists, is deliberate, patient, and perhaps even protective of the space. Despite its reputation, room 1205 remains an integral part of the Beverly Hills Hotel's character. Guests who are aware of its history often enter with trepidation, ready to experience the subtle interactions firsthand. For those who encounter the whispers, the pacing steps, or the fluttering curtains, the experience is memorable, not for overt fear, but for the uncanny intimacy of being observed by something unseen. It is a presence that invites reflection, curiosity, and sometimes awe, rather than outright terror. The suite's continued activity has also inspired intrigue among paranormal enthusiasts. Investigators have occasionally set up recording equipment, noting faint anomalies such as temperature fluctuations, soft audio distortions, or minor movement of objects. While the evidence is often inconclusive, it reinforces the accounts of both guests and staff, adding layers to the narrative of a room that is more alive than it appears. Room 1205 is unique in that it does not conform to classic haunted tropes. There are no loud crashes, no violent apparitions, and no demand for attention. Instead, the room exudes a quiet vigilance, a subtle presence that interacts with the living in ways that are almost imperceptible. It is the ghost of careful observation, an unseen guardian or chronicler of the space, ensuring that the room retains its mysterious energy and continues to captivate those who enter. For many, the allure of room 1205 lies in this understated haunting. It is not about fright, but fascination, an encounter that lingers in the mind long after a guest has checked out. The whispers, footsteps, and shifting curtains serve as a reminder that even in the opulence of the Beverly Hills Hotel, there are corners of quiet mystery, places where the boundary between the living and unseen remains thin, and moments when the ordinary becomes subtly extraordinary. Room 1205 is not just a room. It is a story, a quiet presence, and a mystery woven into the fabric of one of the world's most iconic hotels. Those who experience it leave with a sense of having been watched, followed, or acknowledged by a force that remains ever vigilant, yet never intrusive, a spectral guest that preserves its domain in silence. The pool at the Beverly Hills Hotel is a symbol of luxury and glamour, a place where celebrities once lounged under the California sun, sipping cocktails and enjoying the Californian warmth. By day, it exudes the sparkle of pristine waters, reflecting the clear blue sky, surrounded by manicured gardens and elegant cabanas. But as night falls, the same tranquil waters take on an eerier quality, shifting from a sunlit paradise to a locus of subtle yet unnerving activity. Staff and longtime employees have reported experiences so persistent that the pool has earned a reputation as one of the hotel's most haunted areas. Lifeguards working late shifts are often the first to notice the unexplained phenomena. As the last rays of sunlight disappear and the pool deck grows quiet, some have reported seeing figures moving through the water. These apparitions are seldom fully visible, often appearing as shadowy outlines gliding across the surface. They do not splash or disturb the water in any realistic way, yet the ripples they leave behind are undeniable. Sometimes, these figures are seated at the pool's edge, their legs dangling in the water as if waiting for someone or something. Guests and staff who have witnessed these shapes describe a chilling sense of presence, as if the figures are aware of those observing them, yet refuse to fully materialize. The sensations reported around the pool are not purely visual. Many lifeguards and maintenance staff speak of feeling a sudden brush against their skin when no one is nearby. The sensation is fleeting but distinct, leaving goosebumps along the arms and neck. Some describe the feeling as light and teasing, like someone walking past, while others interpret it as heavier, almost pressing. A weight of energy that seems impossible to ignore. These brushes often occur in the quietest moments of the night, amplifying the unnerving atmosphere when the pool is completely empty. Glasses and poolside furniture sometimes move on their own. Towels folded neatly in the cabanas might be found slightly shifted, or a lounge chair may appear as though someone had been sitting in it moments before. The movement is subtle, never violent, but it contributes to the sense that unseen guests are present, performing small actions that mimic life. The apparitions are never destructive. Their activity is more observational, almost as if they are replaying routines from decades past. Some witnesses have described seeing reflections in the pool that do not correspond to their own. Dark silhouettes stand just beneath the water's surface or move along the far edge of the pool, visible only in the glint of artificial lights or moonlight. Occasionally, a pair of glowing eyes appears at water level, vanishing when approached. The effect is not consistent, and those who experience it often question their own perceptions, only to be reassured later by colleagues who have observed similar occurrences. The presence at the pool seems tied to the hotel's rich history. In its heyday, the pool was a hub for social gatherings, celebrity encounters, and high society events. Some speculate that the lingering energy of these past occupants has imprinted itself on the space. Others believe the spirits may be former staff members, eternally devoted to their duties, still walking among the cabanas, ensuring everything is in place. The apparitions do not interact aggressively, but their attention is palpable, as if they are silently overseeing the pool area. Late-night workers have also reported the sounds of soft splashes and whispers, even when the area is otherwise silent. The water may ripple as though someone has entered, yet a visual inspection reveals no one present. Occasionally, voices call out names or snippets of conversation, indistinct but unmistakable, echoing faintly across the tiles. The combination of auditory and visual cues creates an environment where the living feel observed and tested by a force beyond the ordinary. Guests who inadvertently encounter these manifestations are usually startled, but the experiences are rarely threatening. The poolside apparitions seem bound to the location, almost protective of their domain. There is a sense of ritual to their presence, as though they are replaying moments of the past, frozen in a perpetual loop of interaction with the space. Some staff believe the spirits may even be drawn to those who approach the pool with reverence, responding subtly to the attentiveness and energy of living witnesses. Investigators and paranormal enthusiasts who have explored the pool area describe similar phenomena. Temperature fluctuations, subtle changes in air pressure, and unexplained water movement have been documented, or shadows darting across walls. Although conclusive evidence is elusive, the consistency of these reports reinforces the notion that the pool hosts more than just memories of sun-soaked afternoons. The experience of encountering these apparitions is often described as both beautiful and unsettling. The shimmering reflections of the water contrast sharply with the weight of unseen presence, creating a juxtaposition of serenity and tension. For those who witness the phenomena, the pool becomes a liminal space, a threshold between the present and the echoes of the past. It is a place where the glamour of Hollywood's golden age merges with the quiet, lingering energy of spirits who refuse to leave. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the pool remains central to the Beverly Hills Hotel's identity. Staff treat it with respect, and guests who are aware of its stories often experience it with heightened awareness, scanning the water for signs of the unseen. The apparitions, whether spirits of former patrons, staff, or unknown entities, continue to glide, ripple, and observe, preserving the hotel's history in ways that only the sensitive can perceive. The poolside of the Beverly Hills Hotel is not just a site of relaxation and leisure, it is a stage for the living and the dead. The figures in the water, the brushing sensations, the shifting objects, and the whispers all create a tapestry of subtle hauntings that linger beyond the sun's return. For those who encounter them, the experience is unforgettable, a quiet reminder that some guests never check out, and that even the calmest waters can hold secrets from another world. The lounge of the Beverly Hills Hotel has long been a haven of elegance, where guests can sip cocktails, converse under the soft glow of chandeliers, and listen to live music drifting from the grand piano. By day, it is a hub of sophistication, bustling with chatter and clinking glasses. Yet, when evening falls and the crowd thins, a quieter, more enigmatic presence begins to make itself known. Many who have spent time in the lounge after hours recount a phenomenon that defies explanation. The piano begins to play on its own. The music often starts softly, as if hesitant to announce itself, the delicate notes floating through the air like whispers. Some describe the melodies as classical, others as a jazz-infused ballad, the kind of piece that evokes smoky rooms and polished parquet floors of the hotel's golden age. Those who have witnessed the phenomenon report an initial sense of wonder, even delight, as though the hotel itself is remembering its illustrious past. But that delight is often tinged with unease, a subtle feeling that the music is not merely entertainment, but an echo of someone or something that remains tethered to the world of the living. Staff members have long shared their experiences with the ghostly pianist. Housekeeping crews entering the lounge late at night have found the keys moving under invisible fingers, the bench perfectly aligned, as if someone had just stepped away. Some attendants have claimed to hear footsteps approaching and receding near the piano, though the room is empty. Others report the faint creak of the piano bench adjusting itself, as if an unseen performer is settling in to play a private recital for an audience that no longer exists. Guests, too, have recounted the eerie performances. Those sitting in the lounge late into the evening may hear the first notes drift across the room, turning heads and drawing curious eyes. As the music continues, some claim to feel a subtle presence, a warmth at their shoulder, or a gentle pressure of unseen attention. The effect is both mesmerizing and disquieting. The living are captivated by the talent, yet unsettled by the source. Aware that the pianist may be from a time long past, performing endlessly without applause or acknowledgement, the identity of the pianist remains a mystery, though speculation abounds. Some believe the spirit belongs to a musician who entertained the hotel's elite in the early 20th century. Someone who brought the melodies of the world into the lounge night after night, becoming inseparable from the music itself. Others suggest that it could be a more anonymous presence, a wandering soul drawn to the piano for reasons unknown, finding solace in sound while tethered to the earthly realm. Regardless of origin, the music is said to carry with it a distinct personality, sometimes lively and playful, sometimes solemn and haunting, reflecting the moods of a spirit that has endured decades within the hotel's walls. Several recurring details accompany these nocturnal concerts. The piano lid may rise or fall with the music, keys moving in perfect rhythm without any human intervention. Occasionally, the final note lingers in the air longer than it should, as if the sound itself is reluctant to dissipate, creating an echo that resonates through the lounge long after the last key has been struck. Patrons describe a peculiar sensation. The notes seem to reach out, touching memory and imagination, evoking feelings both nostalgic and melancholic. The experience is immersive, drawing listeners into a temporal fold, where past and present coexist within the sound. Paranormal investigators who have visited the lounge often note unusual occurrences that coincide with the piano's activity. Recordings capture notes played when no one is near the instrument, temperature fluctuations near the piano, and occasional electromagnetic anomalies. While some skeptics suggest mechanical explanations, the consistency and nuance of the melodies argue against simple coincidence. The piano's ghostly performances are intricate, responsive to the environment in ways a mechanical malfunction could not easily replicate, reinforcing the idea of a conscious presence behind the music. The lounge itself seems to facilitate these manifestations. Its high ceilings, polished wood, and reflective surfaces allow the music to resonate with an almost ethereal quality. Shadows cast by dim lighting often appear to dance along the walls in time with the notes, giving the impression of a performer invisible to the eye. Guests sometimes report hearing additional sounds: soft breathing, faint applause, or the shuffle of sheet music turning further, blurring the line between reality and spectral performance. The piano's melodies, while beautiful, carry a weight of history, emotion, and lingering consciousness that transforms the lounge into a liminal space where past and present converge. Encounters with a ghostly pianist are rarely frightening, though they are deeply affecting. Many describe feelings of both joy and sorrow, an awareness of human fragility alongside the persistence of artistic expression. Some feel inspired, compelled to listen longer, perhaps to honor the unseen musician. Others feel a strange sense of loss, as if witnessing a talent suspended in time, unable to leave the place it loved most. The phenomenon has become part of the Beverly Hills Hotel's lore, whispered among staff, patrons, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. A story of elegance entwined with the supernatural. For those who witness it, the ghostly pianist serves as a reminder that the hotel is more than bricks, marble, and chandeliers. It is a repository of memory, experience, and lingering spirit. Each note played without hands reaches into the collective consciousness of those present, connecting them to a world of past glamour, artistic devotion, and unfulfilled attachment. The piano, like the lounge itself, is both a living space and a threshold, where echoes of human expression persist long after the players have departed. The music may start as a faint whisper, a hesitant trill across the polished keys, but by the time it fills the room, listeners are enveloped in an atmosphere of quiet reverence. For a few moments, past and present intertwine, and the invisible musician reminds all who hear that beauty endures beyond mortality. Whether a celebratory echo of art or a solitary soul trapped in sound, the ghostly pianist continues to play, offering both delight and unease to those fortunate or unfortunate enough to be present in the lounge when the notes begin. The Beverly Hills Hotel has long been synonymous with luxury, glamour, and the lives of the rich and famous. Its halls have hosted movie stars, politicians, and socialites, all seeking the comfort and prestige of its storied suites. But amid the opulent and soft golden lighting, one room carries a reputation that even the most seasoned guests approach with caution. Known quietly among staff as the home of the forgotten guest, it has been the site of strange and unsettling occurrences for decades, leaving a trail of whispered stories, nervous glances, and uneasy nights. The legend dates back to the 1940s, a time when the hotel was at the height of its golden era. A wealthy socialite, whose name has faded from memory but whose presence has not, reportedly died in her room under circumstances that were never fully explained. Some accounts speak of sudden illness, others hint at heartbreak, secrecy, or scandal. Whatever the cause, her passing was quiet and undisturbed by any witnesses, and her departure left an invisible residue in the suite that has haunted it ever since. Those who have stayed in the room in the decades that followed have described experiences that defy simple explanation, experiences that suggest the guest never truly left. Visitors often first notice subtle anomalies, small yet unnerving. The temperature shifts dramatically, a cold spot appearing near the bed or in a corner, even on the warmest days. Light fixtures may flicker, or shadows may seem to lengthen unnaturally along the walls. Some have reported that the curtains, untouched by breeze or hand, will flutter, as if responding to the presence of someone unseen. The atmosphere is heavy with a sense of watchfulness, as though the room itself is holding its breath, waiting for something or someone. The most common reports involve sensations that are both tactile and auditory. Guests have felt an invisible pressure on the bed, a gentle but persistent weight, as if someone were sitting or lying beside them. Footsteps, soft and deliberate, have been heard pacing across the carpeted floor, sometimes starting near the doorway, moving toward the closet, and then fading into silence. At night, a soft sobbing has been described, echoing from within the walls or seeming to float through the room itself. It is never loud, never alarming at first, but persistent enough to disturb sleep and unsettle even those who do not believe in ghosts. Some guests have reported seeing fleeting shadows, quick movements in the corner of their vision that vanish when looked at directly. Often, these apparitions appear human in shape, as though the socialite herself has returned to move quietly about her old suite. Doors may open or close on their own, and personal items are sometimes found out of place, despite careful attention. A suitcase might shift, a chair might tilt slightly, or a glass may rest on a nightstand in a position where it had not been left. These minor disturbances, repeated over the years, have cemented the room's reputation as haunted. Staff members are well aware of the room's peculiarities and treat it with a mixture of reverence and caution. Housekeeping routines are often adjusted, with teams scheduled to clean at times when guests are unlikely to be present. Many employees avoid entering alone after dark, sharing stories of feeling watched or hearing whispering when no one else is nearby. New hires are frequently told of the room's history during orientation, a story framed not as superstition, but as an acknowledgement of the long-standing phenomena that occurred there. Despite the unease surrounding the suite, there are those who are drawn to it, either by curiosity or by a desire to witness the unexplained firsthand. Paranormal enthusiasts, journalists, and even hotel guests seeking a thrill have ventured inside, often leaving with vivid recollections of the room's oppressive energy. Cameras and recording devices sometimes capture anomalies, fleeting shadows, unexplained lights, or subtle audio disturbances, though skeptics remain unconvinced, whether viewed as evidence of a lingering spirit or as the manifestation of history's emotional residue. The phenomena are difficult to dismiss entirely. The room seems particularly sensitive to emotion, responding more strongly when guests experience anxiety, sadness, or introspection. Visitors have described a sudden heaviness settling over them, as if the room is mirroring their inner state, amplifying emotions to the point where they feel palpable. Some have interpreted this as a connection to the socialite herself, a spirit perhaps longing for recognition, attention, or simply the comfort of being remembered. Others see it as the accumulation of decades of energy, the collective presence of all who have stayed, all who have observed, and all who have speculated about the room's past. Over the years, the forgotten guest has become part of the Beverly Hills Hotel's lore, a story shared in whispers and hushed conversations rather than formal announcements. It is a tale of mystery and melancholy, a reminder that luxury and glamour can coexist with shadowed corners and unseen presences. Guests who have experienced the room often speak of it with a mixture of fear, respect, and fascination, acknowledging the strange intimacy of sharing a space with a spirit that refuses to move on. For those willing to spend the night, the experience is unforgettable. The soft sobbing, the fluttering curtains, the fleeting shadows, they combine to create a setting that is at once elegant and unsettling. Sleep may come fitfully, and even those who do rest report dreams that feel unusually vivid, sometimes filled with images of a bygone era, or visions of a woman in exquisite attire wandering the suite. In the morning, the room feels lighter, as if the night's presence has retreated, though the memory of it lingers, much like a perfume that clings to fabric long after the wearer has departed. The story of the forgotten socialite serves as a quiet reminder of the passage of time, the persistence of memory, and the lingering weight of unresolved presence. In room 1205 or whichever suite carries her legacy, the past and present converge, leaving behind a spectral witness whose tale is never fully told. The Beverly Hills Hotel continues to welcome the living, but within its walls, the echoes of the forgotten guest endure, a haunting melody woven into the very fabric of its history. The gardens of the Beverly Hills Hotel have long been celebrated for their beauty, a lush expanse of greenery, flowering hedges, and winding pathways that invite leisurely strolls under the Southern California sun. Palm trees sway gently in the breeze, fountains sparkle in the afternoon light, and the vibrant colors of roses, hibiscus, and bougainvillea create an atmosphere of serenity and elegance. By day, the gardens are a sanctuary, frequented by guests seeking respite from the bustling city beyond the hotel's gates. But when night falls and the bright lights fade, the gardens take on a different character, one that has drawn whispers and stories of spectral visitors for decades. Visitors who linger in the gardens after dark often report subtle, unsettling sensations at first. A sudden chill in the air, a shiver that seems to pass across the spine, or the faint sound of footsteps on gravel where no one walks. Some describe the feeling of being watched, as if invisible eyes are tracking their movements among the hedges and flower beds. Others speak of an odd heaviness, a quiet presence that seems to follow them along the pathways. These initial impressions, easily dismissed in the daylight, become more pronounced after sunset, when shadows deepen and shapes begin to blur. The most commonly reported phenomena involve figures dressed in vintage attire, seemingly transported from the hotel's glamorous past. Guests have seen men in early 20th century suits and women in long, flowing dresses strolling along the walkways, their movements deliberate yet ethereal. These apparitions often appear in the periphery of vision, vanishing when directly observed. Some witnesses have recounted approaching a figure, only for it to dissolve into thin air, as if it had never been there at all. There are even stories of couples appearing to dance quietly on the lawns, their forms translucent, frozen in a moment of joy or ritual from decades long past. Flowers themselves seem to react to unseen presences, tilting or leaning as though acknowledging the spectral visitors. Roses bend slightly toward empty spaces, fountains ripple without cause, and delicate petals are sometimes found scattered on paths where no wind or human interference could account for them. Staff members have reported arranging floral displays, only to find them subtly shifted by the morning, as though the gardens themselves are being tended by invisible hands. Some gardeners describe moments when it feels as if someone is walking alongside them, guiding their efforts, yet when they turn, no one is there. The soundscape of the gardens at night is equally strange. Soft footsteps crunching along gravel, whispers carried on the breeze, and the occasional rustle of leaves in the absence of wind create an atmosphere of heightened awareness. Visitors often report hearing laughter, light and airy, drifting between the trees, or the soft strains of music reminiscent of an old piano from the nearby hotel lounges. These sounds are fleeting, appearing and disappearing without pattern, yet they leave a lasting impression, an echo of lives once lived within the hotel's storied history. Some witnesses have described more interactive experiences, moments where the presence of the specters feels almost tangible. A hand brushing against an arm when no one is near, a cold touch on the shoulder, or the sensation of being gently guided along a path. These encounters are rarely frightening, though they can be startling. Many who have experienced them report a sense of familiarity or comfort, as if the spirits are not malicious, but simply lingering, drawn to the beauty and tranquility of the gardens where they once walked in life. The stories of the garden specters have been shared quietly among hotel staff for generations. Night security and groundskeepers often speak of the gardens with a mix of respect and caution, aware that the area holds an energy that is both beautiful and otherworldly. Some have described seeing figures pause near a fountain or watching over particular flower beds, as if maintaining them. Others report hearing snippets of conversations in a language or tone that feels archaic, a reminder that these spirits belong to another era, yet remain tied to the hotel grounds. Guests who are aware of these legends sometimes seek out the gardens at night, curious to witness the unexplained. Paranormal enthusiasts, history buffs, and hotel regulars have all ventured into the moonlit pathways, hoping to catch a glimpse of the ethereal figures. Cameras and recording devices occasionally capture anomalies, faint lights in motion, shadows with no source, or orbs drifting among the trees. Whether these are evidence of actual spirits or tricks of the light and imagination, the reports are consistent enough to sustain the lore, reinforcing the idea that the Beverly Hills Hotel gardens are not merely a retreat for the living. The garden specters seem particularly active during moments of quiet or reflection. Late at night, when the hotel itself is still and the city beyond the walls sleeps, the apparitions appear to walk freely, their movements unbound by the rules of the living world. Some witnesses describe seeing the figures pause to observe guests or staff, a fleeting connection between past and present. Flowers may tilt, fountains ripple, or a soft breeze may pass through, carrying with it the faint scent of perfume long associated with the hotel's most famous residents. In many ways, the gardens serve as a bridge between eras, a place where the past is never truly gone. The figures in vintage clothing, the mysterious sounds, and the subtle movements of nature all contribute to an environment that is both enchanting and eerie. Visitors leave with the memory of a night where the boundaries between living and spirit seemed blurred. A reminder that the Beverly Hills Hotel holds more than luxury and celebrity. It also harbors the echoes of those who have walked its grounds before. For those who wander the pathways after dark, the experience is unforgettable. The soft crunch of footsteps behind them, the fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, and the gentle tilt of flowers toward invisible presences combine to create an atmosphere at once beautiful and unsettling. Whether one interprets these experiences as supernatural or simply the power of suggestion, the stories persist, passed from visitor to visitor, generation to generation. In the gardens of the Beverly Hills Hotel, the past and present intertwine, and the specters of the night remain ever watchful, silent, yet profoundly present, moving among the blooms in timeless grace. The long hallways of the Beverly Hills Hotel have always carried an air of elegance, lined with polished wood, soft lighting, and the subtle scent of old luxury. During the day, these corridors are a passage between suites, lounges, and the bustling life of the hotel. Guests stroll casually, staff carry trays of refreshments, and the occasional bellhop hurries down the stretch to deliver luggage. Yet, once night falls and the activity slows, the hallways take on a very different character. Many who have walked these passages after dark describe experiences that are at once subtle and deeply unsettling, an echo of lives that have lingered beyond the natural span of time. The most common reports involve the sensation of footsteps echoing behind guests, only to find no one there when they turn. It begins as a faint tapping, the soft rhythm of shoes striking the polished floor, growing gradually louder as though someone is keeping pace. Guests have described quickening their own steps, then slowing to see if the sound changes, only for the echoing rhythm to match theirs again. Though no human presence is visible, the effect is disorienting, a whisper of movement that feels intimately close yet entirely untouchable. Shadows are another frequent source of unease. In the soft glow of wall sconces, peripheral figures seem to shift and stretch, appearing briefly at the end of a corridor or behind a partially open door. Guests often report glimpsing a silhouette that vanishes the moment they look directly at it. Sometimes the shadows are humanoid, hinting at the form of a long-gone bellboy or socialite, while other times they are formless, like smoke curling along the floor. These fleeting visions leave a lasting impression, a reminder that the hotel's history is still very much present in its architecture. Doors throughout the hallways often act independently of their human counterparts. Guests recount instances of doors creaking open or slamming shut without any wind, touch, or mechanical cause. Some describe the sound of a lock turning, the faint click of a bolt engaging, when the door is supposed to remain static. Staff have been startled by doors to empty rooms swinging wide, only to find them perfectly closed a moment later. These phenomena are particularly frequent in the late-night hours, when the hallways are empty and silence amplifies every subtle sound. The sense of being followed is a recurring theme in hallway hauntings. Guests have described a creeping unease as they walk, the hairs on the back of their necks standing on end, as though unseen eyes are tracking their movements. Some have checked repeatedly behind them, only to find an empty corridor. Yet the sensation persists, growing more intense with each step. Even seasoned hotel staff sometimes find themselves hurrying down the hallway, sensing a presence that seems to match their pace, urging them onward. It is a feeling that is difficult to articulate, part fear, part awareness of another consciousness lingering just out of reach. Some visitors have encountered phenomena that combine sound and movement. The soft shuffle of fabric, a whisper of conversation, or the creak of a chair on carpeted floors often accompanies the appearance of shadows or sudden chills. Occasionally, a guest has reported seeing a figure pause to watch them, a faint outline in the doorway or at the end of the corridor, only to disappear entirely when approached. These encounters are rarely violent, but they leave a sense of unfinished business, as though the spirits are performing acts they cannot complete, trapped between the past and present. Long-term hotel employees have developed their own methods of coping with the hallway's strange behavior. Many avoid lingering in the corridors after midnight unless necessary, while others move quickly, minimizing the time spent within these haunted stretches. Some staff members speak of a quiet respect, treating the unseen residents as if they were honored guests, acknowledging their presence without attempting to challenge or confront them. In this way, the hotel itself becomes a space where living and spectral worlds coexist, each respecting the boundaries of the other. Paranormal investigators and curious guests alike have tried to document the hallway phenomena. Cameras sometimes capture blurred figures, faint orbs of light, or subtle movements that defy explanation. Audio recordings pick up footsteps, whispered voices, and the creaking of doors, even when no one else is present. These findings, while inconclusive to skeptics, reinforce the consistency of the experiences and the pervasive sense that the hallways hold memories of the past that have refused to fade. Interestingly, some reports suggest that certain corridors are more active than others. Hallways near historic suites, or those once frequented by famous guests and staff, seem to have a higher concentration of paranormal activity. Guests passing through these areas often report heightened sensations of being observed, doors that react to their presence, and shadows that linger a fraction longer than they should. The energy of history in these spaces is tangible, a blend of memory, emotion, and unresolved attachment. Despite the fear these hallways can inspire, many visitors also describe a strange sense of fascination or reverence. The phenomena are not always threatening. There is a quiet dignity to the spirits that inhabit these corridors, a reminder of the hotel's long and storied past. Guests leave with the memory of a night where the ordinary was pierced by the extraordinary. A simple walk to a room transformed into an encounter with something beyond the living world. The hallways of the Beverly Hills Hotel are more than passageways. They are conduits of memory and presence, spaces where the echoes of former guests, staff, and perhaps even the forgotten linger just out of sight. Footsteps in the empty corridors, doors that move on their own, and shadows flickering in the periphery serve as constant reminders that the hotel's history is alive in ways that cannot be measured by time alone. Those who traverse these long stretches of polished wood and soft light often find that they are never truly alone, and the memory of being followed, watched, or quietly acknowledged stays long after they have returned to the safety of their suites. The rooftop of the Beverly Hills Hotel has long been one of its most coveted spaces, offering sweeping vistas of the city below. Palm trees swaying gently in the breeze, and the distant glimmer of sunlight reflecting off the hills. By day, it is a serene retreat, a place where guests can sip cocktails, take photographs, or simply let their eyes wander over the sparkling panorama of Los Angeles. But as evening descends and the crowds thin, the rooftop takes on an entirely different character. It is here, above the noise of the streets, that many have sensed a presence, an unseen figure whose silent watch seems to stretch across the city and beyond. Staff who maintain the rooftop bar and the lounge area often speak in hushed tones about the shadowy figure that appears at the edge of the terrace. Descriptions are consistent: a dark, indistinct silhouette standing perfectly still, observing the city lights below as if in contemplation. No matter the hour or the season, the figure is seen alone, never interacting with the living, yet its presence is undeniable. Those who have glimpsed it report an immediate chill, a drop in temperature that seems to emanate from the figure itself. Some have described the sensation of being watched, an unshakable feeling that lingers long after the figure has vanished. Guests occasionally encounter the rooftop shadow during private parties or quiet evening visits. One evening, a couple enjoying a rare moment of solitude noticed a figure at the edge of the terrace. At first, they assumed it was another guest enjoying the view, but as they called out, the figure did not respond. It did not turn to look at them or even shift its weight. Moments later, the silhouette simply disappeared, leaving behind only the faint trace of a cold wind that carried the scent of old gardens and polished wood. Witnesses often describe the figure as having a presence that is both distant and intimately close, a paradox that makes it impossible to ignore. Some believe the rooftop shadow is the spirit of a former hotel owner, someone who cherished the view and the tranquility of the high terrace in life and chose to remain after death. Others speculate it may be the ghost of a prominent guest who frequented the rooftop in the golden era of the hotel, someone who relished the cityscape and the quiet moments above the bustle below. Regardless of identity, the figure seems bound to the rooftop, appearing with an almost ritualistic regularity, particularly at dusk when the sky glows with amber and violet, and the last rays of sunlight reflect off the distant hills. Staff recount stories of encountering the shadow when preparing the rooftop for events. One bartender describes setting out glasses for an evening party when he felt a sudden, inexplicable pressure behind him, as if someone had stepped very close. Turning around, he saw nothing, but a dark shape appeared on the terrace's edge, framed by the fading sunset. It remained there silently, unmoving, and then gradually dissolved into the night as he blinked, leaving only the sound of wind through the railings. These experiences, repeated over decades, have made many rooftop staff both wary and respectful of the unseen presence. The shadow's appearance is not limited to moments of stillness. On occasion, it is reported during high-energy events, visible to those moving through the terrace or peering from adjacent rooms. Photographs taken at night have occasionally captured faint distortions in the air near the terrace edge, dark shapes that seem to outline a human form. While some dismiss these as mere shadows or reflections, others insist the figure is far too consistent to be coincidental. It seems to prefer the view from the edge, as though it is surveying the city, or perhaps reliving a memory of its time among the living. There are tales of subtle interactions with the living as well. Staff have reported the feeling of being guided away from potential accidents, as if an unseen hand ensured no one stumbled near the railing. Others speak of hearing a quiet sigh or the faint scraping of footsteps along the tiles when the terrace is empty. These incidents, while brief and subtle, contribute to the perception that the shadow is not malevolent, but deeply attached to the rooftop, bound by a sense of duty, memory, or nostalgia. Interestingly, the figure seems to react to certain guests more than others. Frequent visitors who have stayed in the hotel for decades sometimes report feeling an inexplicable familiarity, a sense that the shadow acknowledges their presence. Long-term staff have noted that the figure often appears to quiet or disappear when groups of tourists crowd the terrace, suggesting it prefers solitude, perhaps to continue its silent vigil without interruption. The pattern is consistent enough that even newcomers to the rooftop quickly sense when something unseen shares the space. The rooftop shadow contributes to the hotel's enduring mystique, blending history, beauty, and the supernatural. While the sun sets and the city lights twinkle below, the silhouette stands, a reminder that some presences are drawn not to the chaos of life, but to quiet observation, a connection to the world that once was. Guests leave the terrace with stories of a dark figure against the glowing skyline, tales that mingle with the legends of Marilyn Monroe, Polo Lounge specters, and other lingering presences throughout the property. Those who have experienced a rooftop shadow often describe a mixture of awe and unease. The figure does not speak, does not interact in any conventional sense, yet its presence is profoundly affecting. It is as if the hotel's history, embodied in a single silent watcher, exists beyond time, a constant observer of the lives and stories unfolding below. To stand on the rooftop at dusk is to sense a continuity between past and present, living and dead, a fleeting glimpse of something enduring, watching over the city in silence. The rooftop of the Beverly Hills Hotel is more than a space for cocktails and sunsets. It is a stage for lingering memory and spectral presence. The shadow that appears there is not a threat, but a witness, a guardian of the view, and a reminder that some connections to this world are too strong to fade. Those who glimpse it, whether staff or guest, leave with the knowledge that the hotel is alive in ways invisible, and that some spirits choose to linger where the city spreads out below them, forever gazing, forever watching. The lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel has always been a place of glamour and refinement, a grand entryway where celebrities, socialites, and travelers alike gather beneath sparkling chandeliers and polished marble floors. By day, it hums with life. The clatter of luggage carts, the soft shuffle of high heels across polished tiles, and the low murmur of conversations over cocktails and coffee. But after hours, when the crowds vanish and the lights dim, the lobby takes on a different character, one whispered about among staff and repeated cautiously among returning guests. Here, in the quiet of the night, the lobby speaks in hushed tones of the past, carrying secrets that have lingered long after their owners have departed. Employees, particularly those working late shifts or overnight, frequently describe an eerie phenomenon known simply as the lobby whisper. At first, it is subtle, a faint rustle of air, a soft echo that could be mistaken for a creaking floorboard or the hum of the air conditioning. Gradually, however, the murmurs take on shape, forming words or even names that seem directed at those who happen to be alone in the grand space. Staff report hearing fragments of conversation, the rustle of silk dresses, and the distant clinking of champagne glasses. It is as if the very walls of the hotel have absorbed the countless dramas, romances, and scandals that have unfolded in its storied history, and now choose to recall them when the living are not watching. Guests have also experienced the phenomenon, though far fewer report it publicly. Some have described hearing whispers when sitting alone at the lobby bar after midnight, the hushed voices murmuring just beyond comprehension. A visitor might hear a faint call of their own name, the sound so real and intimate it is impossible to ignore, only to glance around and find the space empty. Others speak of fleeting phrases, snippets of conversations about past events, relationships, or clandestine rendezvous that could never have been spoken in the presence of outsiders. It is as though the lobby itself retains the echoes of decades of secrets and chooses to repeat them when it deems the time appropriate. Long-term staff members often share stories that hint at the lobby whisper's peculiar intelligence. Bellhops and front desk employees have recounted moments when, upon entering the lobby alone after a quiet evening, they hear murmurs that appear to react to their movement. A conversation that begins softly may grow louder as they approach a particular corner, then fade as they step away. Others report that the whispers sometimes mimic ordinary speech patterns, forming phrases and pauses that feel unmistakably human. It is rarely threatening, more unsettling than frightening, but the effect is undeniable. Investigators of the paranormal who have visited the hotel have recorded similar occurrences. Audio recordings made in the empty lobby sometimes capture faint murmurs, too soft and inconsistent to attribute to mechanical systems, and yet unmistakably resembling human voices. Some of the voices seem to speak in the cadence of the 1940s or 1950s, reflecting the era when the hotel was at its peak as a social hub for Hollywood's elite. Even sophisticated analysis has failed to definitively explain these recordings, leaving many to wonder if the walls themselves act as conduits for memory, holding on to the energy of those who once laughed, whispered, and argued within them. There are also stories of interaction, though these are rare and subtle. Staff have reported doors swinging open or closing slowly in response to footsteps, the soft clink of glasses in an empty bar, or even the fleeting impression of a figure brushing past in the peripheral vision. In some instances, guests report hearing their own names spoken aloud, a gentle prompting or warning that cannot be traced to any source. These instances, while mysterious, suggest that the lobby whisper is more than random sound, may be a lingering consciousness, a spectral presence that remembers the people and events of its own past. Even the layout of the lobby seems to encourage the phenomena. High ceilings, reflective marble surfaces, and long corridors create pockets where sound behaves unpredictably. Voices that should be faint echo with uncanny clarity, and the slightest noise can carry unnaturally across the space. Yet, even accounting for architectural acoustics, the content of the whispers, the names, the references to long-forgotten scandals, and the intimate murmurs defies conventional explanation. It is as though the hotel itself has preserved the history of the people who passed through, replaying snippets for those sensitive enough to perceive them. Some employees believe the whispers are the echoes of famous patrons long gone, returning nightly to inhabit the space they once enjoyed in life. Others speculate that it is the energy of all who have lived, loved, and schemed within the walls, the lobby, a repository for decades of intense human emotion. The truth remains elusive. Even those who have worked at the hotel for decades cannot fully explain the origin of the lobby whisper, and perhaps that is precisely its charm. The phenomenon has created a quiet mystique around the hotel. Guests who are aware of it tread lightly, speaking in hushed tones themselves, as if to avoid disturbing the voices of the past. Staff carry on their duties with an understanding that, sometimes, the lobby is not truly empty, that unseen guests linger, recalling conversations, enjoying the ambience, or simply observing the living. The lobby whisper is never intrusive, yet it leaves an impression, a subtle reminder that history is never truly silent. For visitors and employees alike, the lobby becomes more than an entryway or lounge. It is a living memory, a space where the past and present coexist. The whispered voices of the lobby whisper are a bridge to eras gone by, a fleeting connection to the glamour, drama, and intimacy of decades of hotel life. Those who have experienced it speak of a presence that is as elegant as it is unsettling. A reminder that even in the modern world, some echoes refuse to fade. At the Beverly Hills Hotel, the lobby whisper endures, offering a glimpse of the unseen, a gentle murmur from the past, and the knowledge that every step taken across its marble floors is a walk alongside history itself. The voices may be faint, the words fragmented, but they are undeniable, a haunting testament to the lives and secrets that continue to inhabit the hotel long after their owners have departed. The elevators of the Beverly Hills Hotel are more than just a means of transport between floors. They are silent chambers where countless guests, celebrities, and staff have passed through in solitude or anticipation. These gleaming boxes of metal and mirrors, with their soft golden light and hushed hum, have carried secrets, excitement, and sometimes dread. But over the decades, stories have emerged that suggest the elevators serve not only the living, they seem to host another kind of passenger, one who makes their presence known in ways both chilling and mysterious. Guests and employees alike speak of strange sensations that accompany elevator rides late at night or in quiet hours. It often begins with the feeling of being watched, a subtle awareness that another presence is near, despite the obvious emptiness of the small space. The atmosphere grows heavy, as though unseen eyes are fixed intently upon the rider, or even the firm pressure of a hand resting where no hand should be. Many have stepped out at their intended floor, with their hearts racing, unable to shake the feeling that they did not ride alone. Some of the most unsettling accounts involve the elevator's inexplicable behavior. Guests report the elevator stopping on its own at floors they did not select, the doors sliding open to reveal dimly lit, empty hallways. The corridors stretch ahead in silence, yet many describe a sensation of being invited or even urged to step out. Those who refuse often find the elevator doors closing with unusual slowness, as if something unseen lingers just beyond the threshold. Others who dared to step into the deserted halls describe hearing faint footsteps trailing behind them, only to turn and find nothing there. Employees who work overnight have their own share of eerie experiences. Some claim the elevators seem to choose their destinations, responding sluggishly or ignoring button presses until finally stopping at a floor no one requested. On more than one occasion, luggage carts have been found waiting in front of an elevator, though no staff member admits to leaving them there. A few have even reported seeing fleeting reflections in the mirrored wall shadows that do not match their movements, or figures standing just behind them, visible only for an instant before vanishing when they turn. Stories have circulated of specific encounters that leave lasting impressions. One guest recounted a late-night ride when she felt a strong, icy grip on her arm. The elevator stopped at the third floor, doors opening to reveal an unlit hallway. Though every instinct told her to stay inside, the unseen hand tugged lightly, urging her to step out. She resisted, jabbing at the lobby button until the doors finally closed, her arm marked with red impressions that faded only hours later. Another guest described entering an elevator with luggage in hand, only to watch as his suitcase seemed to shift on its own, sliding unnaturally toward the far corner as if nudged by invisible force. Legends surrounding the elevators often link the phenomena to the hotel's long and colorful history. Some believe the restless energy comes from former guests who never checked out, their spirits lingering in the very heart of the hotel where so many memories were formed. Others point to tragic stories of lives lost in secrecy, wealthy patrons who met untimely deaths within their suites, or staff members whose devotion to the hotel tethered them beyond death. The elevators, they argue, serve as crossroads, places of transition not just between floors, but between worlds. Perhaps the most chilling element is the consistency of the reports, the sensation of cold hands, the uninvited stops on empty floors, the whispered names carried faintly in the mechanical hum. These details emerge again and again, told by people who have never met each other, yet echoing the same unnerving themes. Skeptics dismiss the accounts as imagination, heightened by fatigue or the quirks of aging machinery, but those who have experienced the elevator presence themselves insist it is far too deliberate, far too personal, to be mere coincidence. There is also the peculiar way time seems to behave inside the elevators. Guests stepping in for what should be a brief ride sometimes feel it stretching unnaturally, seconds dragging into what feels like minutes. One employee described riding from the lobby to the 5th floor, a journey that should have lasted less than a minute, yet feeling as though she were suspended in the elevator for far longer. When the doors finally opened, the hallway lights flickered, and she felt as though she had stepped into a space both familiar and subtly wrong, like a distorted reflection of the hotel she knew. Still, not all encounters are overtly menacing. Some describe the elevator presence as watchful rather than hostile, a lingering spirit more curious than cruel. A few even feel reassured, sensing they are being accompanied rather than threatened. Yet, for most, the ambiguity itself is what unnerves, the inability to know whether the unseen passenger is friend or foe. For all its glamour and history, the Beverly Hills Hotel holds its share of secrets, and the elevators are among its most intimate keepers. Each ride, whether taken in the bright bustle of daytime or the hushed silence of midnight, carries the possibility of an encounter with the unknown. The small mirrored space becomes a stage where past and present collide, and where the line between the living and the departed blurs with each passing floor. Those who speak of the elevator presence rarely forget it. The sensation of icy fingers, the soft pull toward empty corridors, and the uncanny awareness of being observed in solitude become etched into memory, a reminder that even in the most luxurious of surroundings, not all passengers are of this world. For some, the elevators of the Beverly Hills Hotel remain haunted thresholds, places where the dead still travel, moving silently alongside the living, pressing unseen buttons that open doors to shadows and secrets. The Beverly Hills Hotel is world-renowned for its opulence, its history, and its legendary guests. Yet beyond the glamour of the main building lies a collection of secluded bungalows, tucked among lush gardens and winding pathways. These bungalows have long been a symbol of exclusivity, attracting Hollywood's most famous faces and wealthy patrons seeking privacy. But alongside their reputation for luxury comes a quieter, more unsettling legacy, one of whispered tales, eerie sensations, and inexplicable phenomena. Guests who have stayed in the bungalows often speak of an unshakable feeling of being watched. The sensation is not constant but comes in waves, like invisible eyes lingering in the corners of the room or just beyond the curtains. Many describe the air thickening late at night, an oppressive weight that grows stronger the longer one remains awake. Some have even reported waking in the small hours to the unmistakable impression of a figure standing near the bed, only for the space to be empty when the lights are flicked on. It is not just the feeling of a presence that unnerves guests, but also the subtle disturbances that occur without explanation. Lights flicker without cause, casting erratic shadows across the walls, even when electricians later confirm no fault in the wiring. Personal belongings shift mysteriously at times placed on nightstands, appearing on dressers, or luggage slightly unzipped with contents disturbed. Jewelry, watches, and even handwritten notes have been found out of place, as though examined by unseen hands curious about the lives of those staying within. In one particularly well-documented case, a guest staying in one of the older bungalows awoke to find the lamp beside her bed, repeatedly switching on and off. Thinking it was a fault, she attempted to tighten the bulb, only to feel a sudden icy blast sweep through the room. Moments later, her suitcase fell from the luggage stand as though pushed, spilling clothes across the floor. She checked out early the following morning, insisting she would never return. Another story tells of a high-profile actor who rented a bungalow for weeks while filming nearby. Each night he heard faint tapping on the walls, which grew louder the longer he ignored it. On one occasion, the sound escalated into a rhythmic knocking, followed by the distinct sound of footsteps pacing across the ceiling. Though the bungalow had no upper floor, the actor reportedly moved to the main hotel after only a few days, unwilling to tolerate the relentless activity. The garden pathways connecting the bungalows are no less unsettling. Guests walking alone at night have reported hearing footsteps trailing behind them, always keeping pace, yet never drawing close enough to reveal a source. Some describe flickers of movement in their peripheral vision shadows, slipping between the hedges or retreating around corners. More than one staff member has admitted to refusing late-night errands to the outer bungalow, citing the eerie atmosphere and an inexplicable dread that settles as soon as the main hotel is out of sight. Legends about the origins of these hauntings vary. Some believe the bungalows are tied to the intense emotional energy of those who once resided there, celebrities who experienced heartbreak, addiction, or tragedy within their private walls. Others speculate that the land itself carries lingering energy, the lush gardens acting as a veil that holds spirits close. A few even suggest that those who sought seclusion in the bungalows never truly left, their need for privacy extending beyond death. Employees of the hotel have their own chilling tales. Housekeepers describe entering freshly cleaned bungalows only to find bedsheets rumpled again, as though someone had lain upon them. Chairs are sometimes moved from their original positions, and on rare occasions, televisions turn on with static filling the screen despite being unplugged during cleaning. One housekeeper recalled stepping into a bungalow and immediately sensing a heavy silence, broken only by the faint sound of a woman sobbing. She followed the sound to the bedroom, where it abruptly ceased, leaving the space empty and still. Not all encounters are terrifying. Some guests report gentler interactions, such as the faint scent of perfume drifting through rooms, or the soft impression of a hand resting on their shoulder, without malice. These occurrences, while unsettling, feel less like warnings and more like reminders that the bungalows are never truly empty. For some, these subtler signs are even comforting, as though past guests linger to keep watch over those who come after. Still, the majority of stories lean toward the disturbing. Curtains stir without a breeze, mirrors seem to hold reflections that linger too long, and late-night knocks on doors reveal no one waiting outside. A few guests claimed to have heard voices in the night, soft conversations in languages they could not understand, echoing from the corners of the room or out in the garden. When investigated, the voices vanish into silence, leaving only the uneasy certainty that someone or something was near. Over time, the bungalows have developed reputations of their own. Certain numbers are whispered about more than others, their walls steeped in more frequent reports of activity. Though the hotel never publicly acknowledges these reputations, staff privately admit that they are careful when assigning guests, discreetly avoiding the more notorious bungalows for those who might be easily unsettled. Yet for others, the haunted allure only adds to the mystique, drawing curious visitors who hope to experience the paranormal for themselves. In the end, the bungalows remain as much a part of the Beverly Hills Hotel's identity as its iconic pink facade and lush palm-lined drive. They are places of elegance and secrecy, where history has been written by the lives of countless famous and forgotten souls. And perhaps that is why the echoes of the past remain so strong. Here why the restless energy continues to stir the curtains, move the belongings, and linger in the quiet hours of the night. For those who dare to stay, the haunted bungalows offer not just privacy and luxury, but the chance to share space with the unseen. Each creak of the floorboards, each flicker of the lights, each subtle shift in the air may be a reminder that the past is never truly gone. Here, among the shaded gardens and hidden pathways, the living and the departed walk, side by side, bound together by the timeless, haunted charm of the Beverly Hills Hotel. The kitchen of the Beverly Hills Hotel is as legendary as the rest of the establishment. For decades, it has produced meals for the rich and famous, hosting the aromas of fine dining, the clatter of skilled hands at work, and the bustling rhythm that never quite sleeps. Yet beneath the noise of sizzling pans and the hurried steps of chefs lies a far stranger rhythm, one that has unnerved even the most seasoned staff. Tales of a kitchen poltergeist have circulated for generations, stories whispered late at night when the ovens have cooled and the last orders have long since been served. Chefs and kitchen staff often speak of unexplained disturbances that break the flow of their work. Pots clang without warning, falling from hooks that moments before were secure. Utensils slip from countertops as if nudged by unseen hands. Sometimes, ingredients that were set out neatly for preparation are inexplicably shifted across the counters or vanish entirely, only to reappear in strange places moments later. These incidents are not isolated but consistent, weaving themselves into the lore of the hotel's most essential room. One former chef recalled arriving early in the morning to prep for the day, only to find bags of flour split open across the floor. The spill was too deliberate to be an accident. The flour spread in peculiar patterns, as if something had dragged invisible hands through it. When the chef began cleaning, he noticed faint impressions of what looked like footprints trailing across the kitchen tiles. Small and childlike, though no one had been present. Others have told of knives sliding off cutting boards, sometimes with enough force to embed themselves into wooden floors. While no one has ever been harmed, the occurrences are alarming enough to stop a busy kitchen in its tracks. More than once, a chef has stepped away mid-preparation, shaken by the feeling that the room itself was watching, waiting, and perhaps even playing with those inside. Late at night, when the kitchen quiets and the energy of the day fades, the activity grows bolder. Staff tasked with closing duties often report hearing soft clinking sounds, as though dishes were being stacked or silverware rattled in unseen hands. Doors of pantries swing open on their own, their hinges creaking in the silence. On rare occasions, the heavy walk-in refrigerator door has slammed shut with startling force, though no one was near it. Those who have experienced these events describe an immediate chill, a drop in temperature that lingers long after the noise fades. Legends about the origins of the kitchen poltergeist are varied. Some believe it is the spirit of a former cook, someone who worked tirelessly in the hotel's early years and simply never left. Others suggest it may be tied to the darker moments of the past, when the kitchen operated under different, more rigid conditions, and tempers sometimes flared behind the scenes. There are whispers of tragic accidents, burns, falls, or even disputes that ended in violence, though no official records confirm such stories. Still, the energy of intense labor and emotion may have imprinted itself upon the very walls, manifesting in the restless disturbances seen today. One of the more chilling accounts comes from a sous chef who was preparing late-night meals for a private event. Alone in the kitchen, he began to hear faint humming, a melody without words, drifting through the air. At first, he thought it was another staff member, but when he checked the adjoining rooms, they were empty. Returning to his station, he found the ladle he had left beside the stove now standing upright in the pot, stirring as though held by invisible hands. The humming stopped abruptly, and the ladle clattered against the rim. The chef left his station unfinished, too shaken to continue. Not all of the encounters are sinister. Some staff have described the activity as mischievous, more like a prankster than a malevolent force. Salt shakers overturned, pans swapped, or ingredients hidden in strange places. One cook even joked that the unseen entity seemed to have a sense of humor, once rearranging vegetables into a crude smile on a cutting board. Yet, even in these lighter moments, there remains an uneasy reminder that something unseen is present, active, and aware. Guests, too, have occasionally caught glimpses of the strange happenings. On rare kitchen tours, patrons have witnessed spoons rattling in empty bowls or trays sliding slightly along the counters. Most dismiss it as tricks of the eye or drafts of air, but those who know the kitchen well insist there is more to it. The poltergeist seems to thrive on attention, growing more active when people acknowledge its presence and fading when ignored. The most unsettling aspect, however, is the feeling reported by many. The sense of not being alone, even in a crowded kitchen. Staff claim to feel eyes on them, a watchful gaze that lingers just beyond sight. Shadows flicker in the corners, sometimes darting across the room without explanation. The atmosphere can shift suddenly, from the lively chaos of a professional kitchen to a silence so heavy it presses against the skin. In those moments, even the most skeptical workers admit there is something beyond reason inhabiting the space. Over time, the kitchen poltergeist has become part of the hotel's lore, a presence both feared and respected. Staff speak of it in hushed tones, acknowledging its mischief, but also adapting to its presence. Some even leave small offerings, a slice of bread, a piece of fruit tucked into corners of the kitchen, as though appeasing an unseen companion. Whether this act wards off the disturbances or simply provides comfort is uncertain, but those who work there claim the gestures help keep the energy calm. The Beverly Hills Hotel thrives on its reputation as a place of glamour and history. Yet behind the scenes, in the heart of its operations, the kitchen tells a different story. It is a space where the living and the unseen seem to share territory, where meals for the elite are prepared under the watch of invisible hands. The clatter of pots, the shifting of ingredients, the echoes in the night hall are reminders that even in the brightest corners of luxury, shadows can stir, and the past may linger. Restless in the present, the Beverly Hills Hotel, with its sweeping driveways and iconic pink facade, has long been a beacon for the rich, the famous, and those who wish to bask in its timeless glamour. From the moment a guest arrives, the experience is meant to be seamless valets, chauffeurs, and attendants, creating an atmosphere of effortless luxury. Yet for all its grandeur, there are certain moments, often in the quietest hours of night, when that same driveway becomes the stage for something far less comforting. Guests and staff alike whisper of phantom chauffeurs, spectral figures that appear without warning and vanish just as suddenly, leaving behind only the soft echo of footsteps fading into the dark. Those who encounter the phenomenon describe it in eerily similar ways. The figures are most often seen at night, standing still beneath the sweeping palms or near the entrance, dressed in attire unmistakably from another era. Their uniforms resemble those worn by chauffeurs in the early 20th century: pressed coats, shiny caps, polished shoes. They seem to embody the bygone days of the hotel, when Hollywood's earliest stars arrived in sleek motor delivered by drivers whose discretion was as important as their skill. The ghostly chauffeurs appear to be frozen in time, as if still waiting for their passengers, even though decades have passed. One guest, returning late from a dinner engagement, told of stepping out of a cab at the hotel's entrance. She noticed a man standing off to the side of the driveway, perfectly still, his hands clasped neatly in front of him. At first, she assumed he was simply a chauffeur awaiting a client. Yet, when she walked closer, his features seemed strangely blurred, his presence more shadow than substance. Just as she prepared to greet him, the figure faded into nothing, dissolving into the night air. The only thing that lingered was the sharp sound of shoes clicking against pavement, though no one was there to make the sound. Valets and doormen, who spend countless hours along the drive, have grown accustomed to the strange happenings. Some refuse to speak of it openly, while others share their stories with an uneasy smile. More than one has admitted to catching sight of a figure near the parked cars, standing as though ready to open a door or retrieve luggage. When approached, the figure vanishes, leaving the valet staring at an empty stretch of asphalt. On quiet nights, the faint footsteps are heard circling the driveway, as though someone is pacing endlessly, waiting for an arrival that never comes. The origins of the chauffeur apparitions remain a mystery, though several theories persist. Some suggest the spirits belong to men who once worked for the hotel's wealthy clientele, perhaps so tied to their duties that they never left, even in death. Others believe the figures are echoes of specific individuals' drivers who lost their lives while serving the glamorous elite, their devotion binding them to the place where they once stood proud and visible. Still others claim the apparitions may be residual hauntings, a kind of imprint left behind by countless chauffeurs who once lined the driveway in the golden days of Hollywood, waiting for the stars they ferried to the hotel. A particularly chilling account came from a businessman who had booked a late-night car through the hotel. As he walked out to meet his driver, he noticed a second car parked just behind. A man in chauffeur's attire stood beside it, his posture formal and his face cast in shadow. The businessman glanced toward the valet, asking if another guest was expected. But when they both turned back, the car and the driver were gone. Only the faint scent of gasoline hung in the air, as though an old engine had just idled there moments before. Guests who use the chauffeur service regularly sometimes report feeling watched as they step into their cars. The sensation is not hostile, but it is unmistakably strong eyes following them, unseen but present. Some describe a sudden chill as the car door closes, as though an invisible hand had brushed past them in a final gesture of service. On the rarest occasions, passengers have claimed to hear the faint click of a door handle, though their driver insists no one else is there. Employees, too, have their own unsettling stories. One long-serving valet recalled being alone in the driveway late at night, the air quiet and still. He began to hear steady footsteps approaching from behind, crisp and deliberate, the sound of dress shoes on pavement. When he turned, no one was there. Yet the footsteps continued for several more seconds, circling him before fading completely. Shaken, he left his post briefly, unwilling to remain alone in the space where the unseen presence seemed to tread. Some believe the phantom chauffeurs are protective in nature, still bound to their roles of service and guardianship. Their presence may be an echo of loyalty, watching over the comings and goings of guests who arrive under the cover of night. Others feel a deeper melancholy in their appearances, a sense of waiting that never ends, as if the chauffeurs are eternally expecting someone who never arrives. The driveway itself seems to carry an energy that feeds these stories. During the day, it is a flurry of motion, with cars pulling up, luggage handled, and guests welcomed. But at night, when the traffic slows and silence spreads across the grounds, the space transforms. The glow of lanterns and streetlights casts long shadows, and the grand archway seems almost like a portal between times. It is in this liminal quiet that the apparitions appear most vividly, their presence a reminder that the past still lingers at the edge of vision, whether they are remnants of memory or true spirits. The nighttime chauffeurs of the Beverly Hills Hotel remain an unsettling part of its legacy. Guests continue to report fleeting encounters, staff continue to trade stories, and the echo of phantom footsteps continues to haunt the pavement long after the last car of the evening has departed. They are part of the hotel's hidden history, a spectral reminder that service, devotion, and the weight of time can leave impressions far stronger than anyone might expect, even in a place as glamorous and alive as the Beverly Hills Hotel. The silent watch of the ghostly chauffeurs endures, waiting in the shadows of the driveway. The grand ballroom of the Beverly Hills Hotel has always been a place of glittering elegance. Beneath its high ceilings and sparkling chandeliers, generations of Hollywood stars and powerful figures have gathered for celebrations, galas, and once-in-a-lifetime moments. The space radiates sophistication, with polished floors that reflect every shimmer of light and a sense of history woven into the very walls. Yet alongside the glamour, there lingers an energy that defies explanation. For while countless living guests have danced here, others swear that not all the dancers have ever left. Whispers of the ballroom phantom have circulated for decades. Guests, staff, and even seasoned performers recall moments when the room transforms, taking on an atmosphere that is both enchanting and unsettling. At times, when the lights are dim and the space lies quiet, faint music drifts through the air, soft strains of a waltz or a jazz melody that no orchestra is playing. The sounds are faint, like an echo from another era, yet unmistakable to those who pause and listen. With the music comes movement, shadowy forms appearing on the polished floor, gliding as if caught in an endless dance. Those who have seen the figures describe them in detail that chills the blood. The dancers are dressed in attire long out of fashion, men in dark suits or tuxedos, women in flowing gowns with sequins catching an invisible light. They move in perfect synchrony, partners turning and spinning as though the ballroom itself were still filled with revelers from decades past. Their faces are indistinct, blurred like smoke, but their motions carry grace and intent. Witnesses often feel compelled to stop what they are doing and simply watch, held in place by a strange, magnetic energy. One event planner recalled staying late after a charity gala. As she walked through the ballroom to check for leftover items, she noticed movement at the far end of the room. Believing a guest had returned for a lost belonging, she turned toward the figures. What she saw instead were several pairs of dancers gliding across the floor, their steps matching the faint strains of music she could now hear clearly. Frozen with awe and dread, she stood in silence. After a moment, the figures faded like mist, dissolving in sunlight, leaving behind only the echo of music that seemed to cling to the walls. She later admitted she felt as though she had intruded on something private, a timeless ritual playing out without the need for an audience. Staff members who have worked events in the ballroom tell similar stories. Servers, moving through the space, often report glimpsing someone just ahead, only to realize the figure is semi-transparent and vanishes upon approach. Some have felt a hand brush lightly against their arm or shoulder as they walk by, yet, when they turn, no one is near. One veteran server, who has worked at the hotel for decades, swears that late at night he can hear the distinct shuffle of dancing shoes on the floor, even when the room is empty. There are also accounts of guests feeling an invisible presence guiding them to sit, stand, or remain still, as if compelled to act as silent spectators. One couple, who attended a wedding reception, reported stepping onto the balcony of the ballroom for a moment of quiet. Through the glass doors, they claimed to see dozens of shadowy dancers filling the room, twirling gracefully in the dim light. The music seemed to swell as they watched, though no band played inside. When they stepped back into the room, it was completely empty once more. The origins of the ballroom phantom remain shrouded in speculation. Some believe the apparitions are echoes of grand events from the past, moments so powerful and filled with energy that they imprinted themselves into the fabric of the hotel. Others suspect these are the spirits of long-departed guests, so enamored with the glamour of the ballroom that they chose never to leave. A more romantic version of the tale suggests a particular tragedy. A couple who once danced their last dance here, bound by fate to return again and again in spectral form. Not all encounters with the phantom dancers are frightening. Some describe a feeling of enchantment, even comfort. as though they were witnessing a beautiful continuation of the hotel's history. Others, however, feel a more sinister undercurrent. They speak of an oppressive silence after the music stops, a chill that lingers in the air, or the unmistakable sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. On rare occasions, guests claim the dancers seem to notice them, their heads turning in eerie unison before the figures fade away. One particularly unsettling story comes from a musician who had been hired to perform in the ballroom during a private event. Arriving early, he began to rehearse on the grand piano, only to notice faint sounds of strings and brass instruments joining him. Believing the sound system had been activated, he paused, but the music continued, swelling around him in ghostly harmony. As he looked up, he saw the shadows of dancers filling the floor, moving in time with the melody. For several minutes he sat, unable to move, until the sound and the figures slowly vanished, leaving him alone with the silence. The ballroom itself seems to hold these experiences in its very design. At night, when the chandeliers dim and the vast floor lies vacant, the room becomes a canvas for shadows and whispers. The polished wood seems to invite the memory of movement, and the high ceilings capture and echo every faint sound. It is here, in this timeless setting, that the phantom dancers return again and again, as if the passage of decades means nothing to them. Whether they are echoes of a glittering past, or restless spirits bound to their final waltz, the ballroom phantom remains one of the most captivating and unnerving legends of the Beverly Hills Hotel. For those who have seen it, the experience is unforgettable. A glimpse into another world, where music never ceases and shadows dance eternally. The grand ballroom continues to host galas, weddings, and celebrations. But beneath the laughter and joy lies a quiet truth that some of its most dedicated dancers have never truly left the floor. The Beverly Hills Hotel is known for its timeless elegance and legendary gatherings. But among the clinking of glasses and cheerful chatter, another layer of the past seems to linger. While its champagne brunches continue to attract celebrities, socialites, and families seeking luxury, there are stories that suggest some guests never left. In the warm glow of the morning sun, while servers glide between tables carrying trays of sparkling glasses, figures from another era are said to join the feast's ghostly presences, forever caught in their own endless brunch. The phenomenon most often described occurs during the quiet lull of early morning, when the hotel's famed dining areas are being prepared or have just opened to guests. Staff who have worked a brunch shift for years recount stories of walking into a room and pausing mid-step, convinced they've interrupted a gathering that shouldn't be there. They describe transparent figures seated at tables that no longer exist, tables that decades ago might have been placed differently within the room. Men in tailored suits, their outlines shimmering faintly in the light streaming through the windows. What strikes witnesses most is the detail of their behavior. The spirits do not simply sit, they engage in the lively social rituals that once defined the golden age of the hotel. Gestures of raising glasses in toasts, heads thrown back in laughter, and animated conversations play out as if the brunch never ended. The sound is never clear, muffled, like hearing voices through water, but the rhythm of interaction is unmistakable. Some witnesses even claim they hear the faint tinkling of glassware or the subdued murmur of conversation, only to look again and find the dining room nearly empty. One longtime server shared an experience that left her shaken. Early one Sunday, she entered the dining area to prepare her section. As she walked past the far corner, she noticed a group of well-dressed figures seated at a table that should not have been there. They were smiling, their hands lifting glasses in unison as if toasting a moment of joy. She blinked, and in an instant, the table and its occupants were gone, yet the air still carried the faint scent of champagne, even though no bottles had yet been opened that morning. Guests, too, have shared unsettling accounts. A couple enjoying their brunch one late morning found themselves distracted by movement at the edge of the room. They described seeing two women seated in attire from the 1920s, their dresses and hairstyles distinctly out of place. The women appeared engaged in conversation, smiling and gesturing with delicate hands, though no sound reached the couple's ears. When the waiter approached to refill their glasses, The figures dissolve like mist, leaving the couple in stunned silence. Some of the most consistent stories involve the repetition of gestures. Witnesses describe one male figure who appears to raise his glass again and again, caught in a cycle that never ends. Another recurring apparition is of a woman adjusting her hat, her movements delicate and precise, though her face remains obscured. The uncanny repetition gives the impression that these are not conscious spirits but imprints of past moments, replaying themselves as though etched permanently into the fabric of the hotel. Theories about these apparitions vary. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest they are residual hauntings, echoes of the countless celebrations and brunches that once filled the room. Champagne brunches at the Beverly Hills Hotel were legendary affairs, where the city's elite gathered to see and be seen. The energy of those events, filled with laughter, joy, and indulgence, may have left behind a powerful imprint. Others, however, believe the spirits are more than mere echoes. The clarity of their gestures, the persistence of certain figures, and the strange sensory details, like the smell of champagne or the faint weight of a chair pulling back into, that some presences are still actively connected to the living world. Staff members often speak of cold spots that appear suddenly in the middle of the dining room. Diners have felt a chill wash over them, even when seated in direct sunlight. One guest recalled feeling the table beneath her shift slightly, as if someone had leaned against it, though no one was nearby. Another recounted watching her champagne flute tremble as though brushed by an unseen hand. For some, these subtle touches add an eerie intimacy to the experience, as if unseen guests are mingling among the living, carrying on their rituals of celebration. The hotel itself carries a history that feeds these stories. Since its opening, it has been a gathering place for celebrities, dignitaries, and dreamers. The brunches became symbols of luxury and leisure, where glasses of champagne mocked triumphs, romances, and whispered deals. To think that some part of that energy remains guests, forever raising their glasses in an eternal toast, is both haunting and strangely fitting. Not all who encounter these spirits are unsettled. A few diners describe the experiences as beautiful, even comforting. To see echoes of joy, rather than sorrow, gives them a sense that the hotel is more than walls and rooms. It is a living chronicle of lives once lived to the fullest. Yet for others, the sudden intrusion of figures from another time is deeply unnerving. The fleeting glimpse of strangers from the past, appearing and vanishing without explanation, lingers in memory long after the brunch plates are cleared. The champagne brunch spirits remain one of the hotel's most talked about mysteries, a reminder that celebration and sorrow can intertwine in unexpected ways. As sunlight filters through the windows and glasses once again clink in living hands, who can say whether some of the guests joining in are truly of this world? Perhaps in the quiet moments between laughter and conversation, when the room feels just a little too full, the past leans in for a toast, raising glasses that never empty in a celebration that never ends. The Beverly Hills Hotel has always carried an air of sophistication, its halls filled with stories of the famous and powerful. Yet beyond the glamour and history, certain corners of the hotel harbor mysteries less celebrated and more unsettling. Among them lies the hotel's library, a quiet sanctuary lined with shelves of rare and beautiful books. Many guests step inside seeking peace or inspiration, but what they find instead is something far more enigmatic, a guardian spirit that seems bound to the room, watching over its treasures and those who dare to touch them. The library is small compared to the grand spaces of the hotel, but its atmosphere is unique. Leather-bound volumes line the walls, their spines etched in gold, holding works of history, poetry, and classic literature. The scent of aged paper and worn leather lingers in the air, mixing with the faint polish of the wood-paneled walls. A tall reading lamp in the corner gives off a warm glow, casting shadows across the deep armchairs that invite visitors to sit and linger. Yet those who spend enough time within its walls agree something else is there, something unseen but undeniably present. The most common stories involve the books themselves. Guests browsing the shelves often report volumes sliding free without being touched, falling open to particular pages, as if inviting the reader to notice something important. As she held it, another volume tumbled from a higher shelf, landing open at her feet. The page it revealed contained a poem about loss and eternity, a message that chilled her with its relevance to her personal struggles. She left the library shaken, convinced the book had not fallen by accident. Staff, to have encountered strange phenomena while tending to the library. One night, a housekeeper entered to dust the shelves. As she worked, she heard the unmistakable sound of pages turning. Thinking a guest had slipped in quietly, she called out, but the room was empty. The sound persisted, soft and deliberate, as if unseen hands were gently leafing through a book. When she checked the shelves, she found one volume standing slightly apart from the others, open as though displayed. She swore no one had been there, and the chill that ran through her was enough to make her leave her work unfinished. Others described the sensation of being watched. The library is quiet, almost reverent, yet many claim the stillness feels alive. Sitting in the armchairs, guests sometimes sense eyes upon them, a presence hovering just behind their shoulders. One guest described the experience vividly. While reading a novel, she suddenly felt warmth near her ear, as though someone had leaned close to whisper. Though no sound emerged, the feeling of breath and proximity was undeniable. When she turned, the chair beside her was empty, but her heart pounded as if she had not been alone at all. A recurring element in these stories is the faint smell of old paper and leather, often described as stronger than what could be expected from the books themselves. Guests have noticed it intensify suddenly, accompanied by an almost electric charge in the air. For some, the scent serves as a warning that the guardian spirit is near. A man flipping through an antique travelogue once reported the smell becoming overwhelming, followed by a sudden gust that extinguished the reading lamp beside him. When he left the library in haste, the scent lingered on his clothes for hours, as though the spirit had followed him. But who is this guardian? Theories abound. Some suggest it is the spirit of a former librarian or caretaker, someone who cherished a collection in life and refuses to leave it unprotected in death. Others believe it could be a past guest, perhaps a writer or intellectual who spent so many hours within the library that their energy imprinted itself permanently. One particularly enduring rumor links the spirit to a wealthy socialite who donated a rare collection to the hotel. According to the tale, she passed away shortly after, and her soul returned to ensure her prized volumes were safeguarded. What makes the library's guardian unique is that it does not appear malicious. Unlike other hauntings, filled with menace or dread, the presence here seems watchful, almost protective. Books are opened, but never destroyed. Guests feel observed, but rarely threatened. Even the unsettling sensations carry an undertone of purpose, as though the spirit simply wants the library respected. Still, for those unprepared, the experience is anything but comforting. The line between protection and intrusion blurs when invisible hands turn pages and unseen eyes linger on your every move. Late at night, the activity intensifies. When checked, the room is empty, but lamps stand lit, and books are found open on tables. One guard described entering and feeling the room pulse with energy, as if charged by a presence unwilling to be ignored. He noticed an open volume containing historical records about Los Angeles, its pages gently rustling, though no air stirred in the sealed room. He closed the book, turned off the lamp, and locked the door. When he returned minutes later, the light was on again, the same book open to the same page. Over the years, these accounts have given the library a reputation among both staff and regular guests. Some enter hoping for an encounter, treating it as a hidden gem of paranormal activity within the glamorous hotel. Others avoid it entirely, preferring not to risk the feeling of invisible company. The hotel itself acknowledges the stories quietly, with staff often speaking of the library's spirit with a kind of respect, as if wary of offending it. The guardian of the library remains one of the Beverly Hills Hotel's most enduring mysteries, a spirit tied not to wealth or scandal, but to knowledge. Within those shelves, where words and history wait in silence, an unseen figure seems to linger, forever ensuring that the wisdom of the past is not forgotten, whether guest, caretaker, or something older still. The presence serves as a reminder that even in the most glamorous corners of the living world, the past is always close at hand, waiting to turn the page. The Rose Garden of the Beverly Hills Hotel is a place where beauty and stillness intertwine, where the air seems heavy with the perfume of countless blossoms and the soft hum of life lingers in the background. By day, the garden is a refuge for guests, a quiet retreat to wander between sculpted hedges and radiant flowers, to sit beneath the shade of palms and reflect while the world continues outside the gates. But when the sun dips low and shadows stretch across the pathways, the garden takes on a different character. The colors fade, replaced by muted tones under the glow of moonlight. And it is then that some visitors claim to glimpse a figure, a solitary presence, seated quietly on a bench, as though keeping watch over the roses he once tended in life. This figure is known as the Rose Garden Watcher, believed to be the spirit of a gardener who worked at the hotel many decades ago. He was said to be a man of few words, devoted to the land and his flowers. Though countless celebrities and wealthy patrons passed by, he paid little attention to the glamour, focusing instead on the care of the blooms that drew so much admiration. For him, the garden was more than a job, it was a living creation, a sanctuary of peace and dedication. It is whispered that when he passed away, his spirit did not move on, but lingered in the place where he had given his heart and years of his life. Guests who walk through the garden in the evening sometimes catch sight of him without realizing what they are seeing. A figure in plain clothing, seated on a bench, often with his head slightly bowed as though lost in thought. He does not move when approached, and by the time the guest draws near, the bench is empty. The reports are consistent. A man alone, watching, but never interacting, always disappearing as suddenly as he appears. One guest described the encounter in detail. She had gone to the garden late at night, restless after a long day. As she walked among the roses, she noticed a man seated ahead of her, his figure faintly illuminated by the soft garden lights. He seemed calm, almost serene, with the air of someone who belonged entirely to the space. She took a few steps forward, preparing to greet him politely. But in the blink of an eye, the bench was vacant. Only the scent of roses hung heavier in the air, and an odd chill prickled her skin as she realized she had not seen him leave. Staff members are equally familiar with the tales. Groundskeepers, tending to the roses in the early morning, have felt an unshakable sensation of being observed, as though another pair of eyes rested on them from somewhere nearby. Once, a worker bent to trim a particularly overgrown bush and heard the creak of the bench just behind him, as if someone had sat down. When he turned, there was no one there, but the impression of weight remained pressed into the wooden slats for a few moments before slowly fading away. He swore he had not been alone in that moment, that the watcher had been keeping him company as he worked. The atmosphere of the garden itself seems to shift in the watcher's presence. Some describe a sudden stillness in the air, the usual rustle of leaves or chirp of crickets falling silent for just a breath. Others mention a change in the scent of the roses, as though it grows stronger and sharper, carrying an edge of melancholy beneath its sweetness. A few have even claimed that the flowers themselves seem to move slightly, bowing in the direction of the benches where the figure appears, as though acknowledging the presence of their eternal caretaker. While most reports of the Rose Garden Watcher are gentle and subdued, not all encounters are so serene. A couple once claimed to hear footsteps following them along the gravel path, slow and steady, matching their pace. When they turned, no one was there. Yet the sound persisted until they left the garden altogether, hearts pounding. They later learned of the stories of the Watcher and were convinced they had been accompanied by him, not maliciously, but as if he were ensuring they respected the grounds he had once tended. Over time, the legend of the Watcher has become part of the hotel's whispered folklore. Regular visitors sometimes leave small tokens in the garden, flowers plucked from bouquets, or notes tucked discreetly beneath the benches. Quiet offerings to the unseen gardener. Some do it out of respect, others in the hope of avoiding an encounter with his watchful spirit. Unlike more menacing hauntings within the hotel, the Rose Garden Watcher carries with him an aura of quiet devotion. He does not seek to frighten, nor does he chase away those who enter the garden. Instead, His presence seems bound to a sense of duty, an unwillingness to leave behind the beauty he once cultivated. In life, he nurtured the roses with his hands. In death, he guards them with his spirit. The garden, in turn, seems to carry his memory. On still nights, when the moonlight strikes the petals just so, the rows of roses appear almost otherworldly, shimmering with a glow that seems to belong more to dreams than reality. Guests who sit in silence claim to feel a calm descend upon them, as though they are not merely in a hotel garden, but within a sacred space, watched over by someone who truly understands it. The presence of the watcher, though eerie, lends the place a strange comfort, a reminder that even in death, some bonds cannot be broken. The Rose Garden Watcher remains a mystery, an unseen guardian whose devotion outlasted his own mortality. To those who glimpse him, seated quietly among the blooms, he is both unsettling and reassuring, a spectral reminder of love and care that endures beyond the grave. For as long as the roses bloom at the Beverly Hills Hotel, it seems the Watcher will remain, keeping his eternal vigil among the flowers he once cherished. The signature suite of the Beverly Hills Hotel has always carried an air of exclusivity. It is a place reserved for the elite, where celebrities, dignitaries, and high-profile guests seek refuge behind walls of opulence and luxury. Its sweeping views of Los Angeles, lavish furnishings, and timeless design make it a destination in itself. Yet beneath the suite's gilded charm lies something more unsettling, an atmosphere many describe as haunted. Stories have circulated for decades about its strange happenings, accounts that go beyond the ordinary quirks of an old building. Those who have stayed there often leave with a tale of their own, and the suite has earned a reputation as one of the most paranormally active spaces in the hotel. The most common reports involve unexplained knocks. Guests claim that, late at night, when the rest of the hotel has quieted, the sound of rapping comes from the walls or doors. Sometimes it's a soft tapping, as though someone were testing the boundaries of the space. Other times, it is sharp and insistent, echoing through the suite like a demand to be answered. When the door is opened, the hallway is empty, and no signs of disturbance can be found. Maintenance has checked for faulty plumbing, loose fixtures, or other possible explanations, but nothing has accounted for the phenomenon. Guests who hear the knocks often say they occur at unsettling intervals, just as they are drifting into sleep, pulling them back into wakefulness with a sense of dread. Equally unnerving are the shadows that seem to move on their own. The suite is adorned with rich drapery, elegant mirrors, and polished surfaces that play with light, but witnesses insist that what they see cannot be explained by reflections or tricks of the eye. Figures linger at the edge of vision, tall, indistinct shapes that glide across the walls or shift in the corners. Some have described waking in the night to find a silhouette standing at the foot of the bed, watching silently before dissolving into the darkness. One guest recounted that she turned on every light in the suite after such an encounter, only to find the shadows persisted, darker than the rest of the room, moving independently as though alive. The sensation of being watched is perhaps the most unnerving aspect of the signature suite's reputation. Even those who have not witnessed knocks or shadows speak of an oppressive awareness that settles over them during their stay. Guests describe entering the suite and feeling immediately ill at ease, as though eyes follow them from the moment they cross the threshold. Some report difficulty sleeping, waking repeatedly, with the sensation of someone standing over them, though the room is empty. Others have said they avoid certain areas of the suite altogether, such as the far corner of the living room, where the atmosphere feels unusually heavy, almost suffocating. There is a story often shared among staff about a particular guest who checked into the suite with curiosity rather than fear. Known for his interest in the paranormal, he viewed the room as an opportunity to test his limits. On his first night, he recorded the sound of knocks that seemed to travel from one end of the suite to the other, like someone pacing unseen along the walls. On the second night, he claimed to see a dark figure pass directly in front of him, while he sat awake in the living area, though no one else was inside. By the third night, he admitted to staff that the experience had become overwhelming. He could no longer sleep and felt constantly drained. as though whatever haunted the suite was feeding on his exhaustion. Leaving in the early hours of the morning and declining to ever return. Some speculate that the activity in the signature suite is tied to a tragic history, though the details remain murky. Whispers suggest that, decades ago, a high-profile guest suffered a breakdown within those walls, his final days marked by paranoia and fear. Others believe the disturbances are connected to the very energy of the room itself, a space that has witnessed countless secrets, indulgences, and private dramas of the rich and famous. Whatever the cause, the suite's reputation has only grown, drawing those who are unafraid, or perhaps reckless enough, to test their courage against the unknown. The hotel itself treats the stories with measured discretion. Staff rarely speak openly about the suite's haunted reputation, though many admit privately that they avoid lingering there longer than necessary. Housekeepers have reported lights that flicker even after bulbs are replaced, curtains that sway without a breeze, and personal discomfort that leaves them eager to finish their work quickly. One even confessed to hearing her name whispered softly while cleaning, though she was alone in the suite at the time. Despite, or perhaps because of its eerie reputation, the signature suite remains one of the most requested accommodations by certain thrill seekers. These guests are drawn not only to the luxury, but also to the thrill of spending a night in one of the hotel's most haunted rooms. Some arrive with cameras and recording equipment, hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal. Others simply want to test their nerve, to see if they can endure the knocks, shadows, and unsettling presence that so many have described. For a select few, the experience proves exhilarating. For most, however, the thrill quickly fades into unease, leaving them eager to check out and put the suite behind them. Over the years, the signature suite has earned its dual identity, a pinnacle of elegance by day, and a chamber of dread by night. It embodies the contradictions of the Beverly Hills Hotel itself, a place where glamour and history intertwine with whispers of the supernatural. Guests may come for the luxury, but many leave with stories they never expected to tell. And for those who dare to sleep beneath its roof, the signature suite offers more than comfort. It offers a brush with something unseen, a reminder that even in the most lavish surroundings, the past has a way of lingering, and the dead are sometimes closer than we realize. The Beverly Hills Hotel is a place that thrives on elegance, glamour, and timeless charm, but hidden within its walls are stories that seem torn from the realm of the supernatural. One of the most whispered about tales involves a section of the hotel known as the famed Hall of Mirrors. Though not a true ballroom hall of mirrors, this stretch of corridor earned its nickname because of its design lined with mirrors that reflect endlessly, creating a dizzying sense of repetition. For decades, these mirrors have been the subject of stories that leave even the most skeptical visitors uneasy. For it is said they do not always reflect the living. The hallway, bathed in golden light during the day, appears like any other stretch of the hotel's elegant interior. The mirrors are framed with ornate gilding, their surfaces kept polished to perfection by staff who take pride in maintaining the hotel's reputation. Guests often stop to admire themselves, struck by how the reflections seem to extend into infinity. But when the sun dips below the horizon and the hall is lit by softer lamps, the atmosphere changes. Shadows play strangely across the reflective glass, and it is then that the stories of ghostly reflections come alive. Guests who have walked this hallway at night report seeing figures appear beside them in the mirrors, figures that do not exist in the hallway itself. A man in an old-fashioned tuxedo has been described standing just behind one's shoulder, his gaze fixed forward, expressionless, before vanishing as quickly as he appeared. Others have seen women in glamorous evening gowns, their features indistinct yet unmistakably present, gliding through the mirrored corridors only to dissolve into nothing. These are not fleeting tricks of the eye, but reflections that linger just long enough to chill the blood. One of the most unsettling aspects of these encounters is the recognition of people who no longer exist. A guest once recounted pausing in front of the mirror, only to see an image of her grandmother reflected beside her grandmother who had passed away years before. The apparition smiled faintly in the glass, then faded, leaving the guest trembling with both sorrow and fear. Another visitor swore he saw the reflection of a famous actor known to frequent the hotel in the 1950s. Even though that actor had died decades earlier, the image was crisp and clear, almost as if he were alive again, dressed sharply and leaning casually against the wall, before blinking out of existence. Staff who work in this section of the hotel tread carefully. While they are tasked with polishing the mirrors regularly, many admit privately that they prefer to do so during the day. Some claim that when they clean the glass at night, faint smudges appear in the shape of hands pressed against the inside of the mirror, though no one else is present. Others say they've caught glimpses of shadowy figures moving in the reflection, only to turn and find the hallway empty. Though employees maintain their professionalism, whispers circulate among them that the mirrors are portals of some kind, holding the echoes of the hotel's past. The hall has also been the site of more disturbing phenomena. Guests report feelings of unease growing stronger with each step, as though the mirrors amplify an unseen energy. Some have described sudden cold drafts brushing past them, even though the air in the hallway is still. Others recount hearing faint whispers, muffled as though coming from behind the glass. The whispers carry no clear words, just a sensation of voices murmuring, conversations that cannot quite be understood. A few guests have claimed that the mirrors distort their reflections altogether, showing faces that are not their own, or altering features in grotesque ways, twisted smiles, eyes too dark, or expressions that don't match the person standing before them. One particularly chilling account involves a guest who became lost in thought while walking through the hall late one evening. She said she felt herself pulled toward the mirrors, as though drawn into their depths. Her reflection appeared to step forward just a fraction faster than she did, and when she stopped, the reflection did not. Instead, it lingered, staring back at her with an intensity that made her heart race. She fled the hallway and later insisted that, in that moment, the reflection was no longer her own, but something else entirely, something watching through her eyes. Over time, the Hall of Mirrors has earned a reputation among those who know its secrets. Some thrill seekers specifically request suites near the corridor, hoping to experience the phenomenon for themselves. Paranormal enthusiasts bring cameras and recording devices, though most leave with little more than strange feelings and unexplained chills. The mirrors seem to resist being captured on film, images blur, or recordings pick up static and faint voices without clear explanations. Skeptics argue that the design of the corridor, with its repeating reflections and dim lighting, naturally creates optical illusions. The brain, they say, fills in the blanks when caught in repetitive patterns of glass. But even the skeptics admit that the consistency of the reports from staff, guests, and visitors of all kinds makes the hall difficult to dismiss entirely. Theories about the source of the hauntings vary. Some believe the mirrors have absorbed the energy of countless guests who passed through over the decades, their reflections leaving behind imprints like photographs etched into the glass. Others suggest that the mirrors serve as a thin veil, a surface where the living can glimpse the dead, if only for a moment. The most superstitious warn never to linger too long in front of them, fearing that prolonged stares may invite something to cross over. Regardless of the explanation, the Hall of Mirrors remains one of the hotel's most infamous features. Guests may come seeking the glamour of Hollywood's golden age, but those who wander this corridor at night often leave with a deeper impression, one that unsettles long after they've checked out. For in the mirrored walls of the Beverly Hills Hotel, reflections do not always belong to the living. They belong to something else. Memories, echoes, or perhaps restless spirits who cannot resist looking back at the world they left behind. The Beverly Hills Hotel is known for its elegance, its star-studded history, and its opulent charm. But hidden among the gilded walls and lush gardens are secrets that have long been whispered in hushed tones. Among the most persistent tales is that of the cursed portraits, artworks that hang throughout the hotel, yet carry an unsettling presence that some guests cannot ignore. These are not merely paintings. They are said to harbor the essence of something beyond the canvas, something that lingers long after the artist has put down their brush. Guests often first notice the portraits in hallways or suites during quiet moments, When the hotel's usual buzz has dimmed and the evening shadows stretch along the corridors. At first glance, the portraits appear lifelike depictions of past patrons, distinguished figures, or commissioned works celebrating the hotel's history. Yet there is an uncanny quality to them that becomes apparent to those sensitive to the unusual. Visitors frequently report an inexplicable chill when standing near these paintings, a cold that has no source other than the air itself. It is a subtle sensation at first, creeping along the nape of the neck, then intensifying as they linger, leaving a deep sense of unease. The most common reports concern the eyes of the figures within the portraits. Guests have described the unnerving feeling that they are being watched, that the painted gaze follows them across the room. In some cases, observers swear that the expressions shift slightly when no one is looking directly at them, a subtle but unmistakable change in the tilt of a head or the arch of an eyebrow. A guest in the 1950s famously reported standing in a suite reading by the lamp, only to look up and notice the portrait of a stern man now seemed to scowl directly at her. When she turned away, the scowl vanished, leaving the painting as serene as it had been when she first arrived. Staff members are well aware of the reputation surrounding these artworks, and many claim to have their own experiences. Housekeepers sometimes feel compelled to hurry past certain portraits, even in the middle of daytime cleaning. A longtime employee recounted polishing the glass covering a portrait, when she suddenly felt a hand on her shoulder, though no one else was present. In another instance, a bellhop recalled moving a heavy trunk past a hallway and catching a fleeting glimpse of a woman's face in a portrait that had not been painted to resemble anyone in particular. The image seemed to glimmer, the eyes following him until he spun away, heart racing. Some of the most famous stories involve entire suites where cursed portraits hang. Guests checking into these rooms have reported objects shifting ever so slightly, lamps tilting, or doors closing with no breeze. One couple claimed that during a quiet evening, the eyes of a portrait glowed faintly, illuminating the room in a ghostly amber light, though the electrical fixtures were off. Moments later, the glow faded, leaving only the still painting and the couple's pounding hearts. Others have described waking to find the figures in the portraits appearing closer, as if leaning forward in silent warning or curiosity. The origin of these haunted works remains speculative. Many believe that certain artists imbued their paintings with more than just paint and canvas, intentionally or unknowingly capturing some aspect of the subject's essence or perhaps leaving an imprint of themselves. In an era when spiritualism was popular, it was not uncommon for artists to experiment with capturing the soul. In their work, others argue that the subjects themselves, some of whom died tragically or mysteriously, lend a restless energy to the canvas. Whatever the cause, there is consensus among witnesses that these portraits are more than decorative art. They are windows into something beyond ordinary perception. Paranormal enthusiasts have attempted to document these phenomena, setting up cameras and recording devices in hallways and suites where the portraits hang. Their footage often captures fleeting shadows, unexplained flickers of light, or distortions in the glass. Voice recorders pick up faint murmurs, sometimes unintelligible, sometimes whispering names or half-formed phrases. Yet even with technology, the full experience eludes capture. The chill, the oppressive feeling of being watched, the subtle movement within the canvas all remain difficult to convey fully in recordings. Skeptics, of course, attribute the experiences to the mind's natural reaction to the uncanny. Mirrors, dim lighting, and long periods of quiet can cause shadows to play tricks on the eyes. Human beings are conditioned to detect faces and emotion, and the realistic quality of the portraits can exaggerate these tendencies. But even the most rational visitors often pause when standing before certain paintings, feeling a pull they cannot explain, a weight in the air, or a lingering sense of presence that defies reason. Over time, the cursed portraits have become part of the lore of the Beverly Hills. Hotel guests who seek the thrill of encountering the paranormal are drawn to rooms and hallways where these paintings hang, hoping for a brush with the unexplained. Staff treat them with cautious respect, understanding that some artworks are more than decorative. They are vessels of history, memory, and perhaps lingering spirits. The portraits do not harm anyone directly, but their power lies in the subtlety, the psychological tension, and the quiet, persistent awareness that someone or something is always watching. In the end, the cursed portraits of the Beverly Hills Hotel are a reminder that elegance and terror can coexist in the same space. They are silent witnesses to decades of glamour, gossip, and human emotion, yet they carry an energy that refuses to fade. Whether the eyes truly follow you or your imagination weaves the story, the effect is undeniable. To stand before these portraits is to feel history itself pressing close, a presence that cannot be ignored, and a reminder that some art contains more than just painted, holds echoes of lives that will not rest. The Beverly Hills Hotel is famed for its luxury, celebrity guests, and storied history, but it has long carried an air of mystery that few outsiders understand. Among the many tales whispered in staff quarters and repeated in hushed tones by longtime employees, one story continues to unsettle visitors: the early morning footsteps. These phantom sounds are as regular as the dawn itself, yet as inexplicable as any ghostly phenomenon ever reported in the hotel. Guests staying in the upper floors often recount waking just before sunrise to the sound of steady footsteps echoing through the hallways. The steps are deliberate, measured, and carry a weight that seems far heavier than any human stride. Some describe the sound as coming from multiple floors simultaneously, as though an unseen figure is pacing methodically, ensuring that every corridor is traversed in silent vigilance. The phenomenon is subtle enough that many guests dismiss it at first, thinking it is housekeeping or an early riser, but the timing, pattern, and sudden vanishing act always betray its unnatural origin. One visitor recalled a particularly unnerving morning. She had been woken by a faint creaking, her eyes barely open as she strained to hear the source. The footsteps were deliberate, slow, and hauntingly close. She rose cautiously, peering into the hallway from her doorway, but saw nothing. The moment she switched on the light, the footsteps stopped abruptly, as if the sound itself had been extinguished. A hollow silence replaced a rhythm, leaving an oppressive weight in the air that lingered long after the moment passed. When she later asked the front desk if anyone had been on the floor at that hour, the answer was always the same: no one. Staff members are intimately familiar with the phenomenon, and over the decades, they have developed a careful routine to accommodate it. Bellhops, housekeepers, and night managers all know to move quietly when guests are present, to respect the strange occurrences, and, in some cases, to avoid speaking of them entirely. Many employees describe feeling a presence in the hallway at that hour, a cold awareness that seems to track their movements as they perform early morning duties. Some have reported turning corners only to find an empty corridor, yet the feeling of being observed persists. The sound itself is eerie in its precision. Unlike ordinary footsteps, which vary in speed and pressure, these are measured, rhythmic, and unyielding. They carry across the polished floors with a clarity that can make a person hold their breath. Occasionally, the footsteps are accompanied by faint creaks of doors opening or closing, or the soft shuffle of fabric as though the figure wears a long coat or dress. Guests report feeling watched even when they cannot see anything, a sensation that intensifies if they rise to investigate. Interestingly, the footsteps seem to vanish the moment a conscious effort is made to confront them. Turning on lights, stepping into the hallway, or calling out produces only silence. This sudden cessation is one of the most disconcerting aspects of the haunting, as it suggests an awareness of the living, a responsiveness that is far more intelligent than random noise or structural quirks. For many, this is the moment when curiosity turns to fear, as the sound resumes in imagination, leaving them to question whether they have truly witnessed the phenomenon or simply sensed it. Some researchers and paranormal enthusiasts theorize that the footsteps belong to a former employee or bellman who continues their duties beyond the grave. The precision and timing of the pacing seem almost ceremonial, as though this spectral figure is maintaining a protocol that once dictated their life. Others speculate that the footsteps are the echoes of decades of hotel activity, a residual imprint of those who walked the corridors in the early hours of the morning over the years. The fact that they stop when observed suggests a level of consciousness, or at least an intent to remain unseen, which has long intrigued investigators. Guests who experience the footsteps often describe a mixture of fear and fascination. Some awaken in a state of panic, heart pounding, and retreat under the covers, unwilling to confront the unknown. Others rise cautiously, drawn by curiosity, and report a heightened awareness of the hotel's history, imagining the countless lives that have passed through these corridors. The footsteps act as a bridge between past and present, a reminder that the walls of the Beverly Hills Hotel have absorbed more than laughter, music, and conversation. They have absorbed the presence of those who once moved among them. The phenomenon is not limited to a single floor or wing. Reports span decades and multiple areas of the hotel. Guests in suites, staff in service corridors, and even visitors passing through for tours have all reported hearing the early morning footsteps. What unites these accounts is the eerie consistency of the experience. The timing just before dawn, the deliberate cadence, the cold awareness, and the sudden, unexplained silence when attention is paid. Some have attempted to record or capture the footsteps using modern technology. Audio devices often pick up faint, almost imperceptible thuds that vanish when someone approaches, while cameras rarely capture anything visible. It seems that the phenomenon is more a feeling, a sensory presence, than a material one. The mystery endures, adding a layer of intrigue and unease to the hotel's storied reputation. Ultimately, the early morning footsteps of the Beverly Hills Hotel serve as a reminder that some spaces retain echoes of lives long past. They are a quiet, persistent, haunting, subtle, yet profoundly affecting. Guests awaken to their rhythm, feel the cold awareness of the unseen, and witness a momentary pause as if the figure itself respects their presence. It is an experience that blends fear, history, and fascination abrush with the unknown that few forget. To stand in the hallways of the Beverly Hills Hotel before sunrise is to listen closely to history itself, to feel the brush of invisible footsteps, and to acknowledge that some spirits, dutiful in life, remain vigilant in death. The early morning footsteps are not violent or malevolent. They are a quiet, lingering presence, a spectral echo that continues to pace the corridors, ensuring that the legacy of the hotel and the lives it has touched are never truly forgotten. The Beverly Hills Hotel has long been a symbol of glamour, luxury, and Hollywood history, but beneath its polished exterior lies a quiet, lingering mystery. Among the many tales whispered among staff and longtime residents, one of the most chilling involves the hotel's tower bell, which has been reported ringing at midnight for decades, even though it has long been disused. Guests and employees alike speak of hearing the deep, resonant toll of the bell echoing across the grounds, a sound that seems to vibrate through the very foundations of the hotel. Those who have experienced the phenomenon describe it as startlingly clear and commanding, filling the night with a presence that is impossible to ignore. One late-night security guard recounted the experience vividly. While making his rounds near the upper floors, he suddenly heard the bell's peal reverberate above him. At first, he assumed it was some maintenance or prank, but upon investigation, he found the bell tower empty, with no evidence of tampering. The sound continued to ring with the same deliberate, ceremonial tone, fading gradually into silence, as if the bell itself had a mind of its own. Guests in rooms overlooking the tower have also reported waking in the dead of night to the same unnerving chime. Some describe the sound as distant, almost ethereal, carrying across the gardens and pool area. Others report it as surprisingly close, as though the bell is ringing directly outside their window. The experience is often accompanied by a sense of cold air or a subtle vibration in the floor, giving the impression that the entire hotel is responding to the spectral toll. Many guests admit to feeling a mix of fear and awe, unsure whether they are witnessing a residual echo of the past or an intelligent, supernatural presence actively communicating through sound. Employees have learned to respect the bell and its mysterious activity. Night staff often avoid walking directly beneath the tower at midnight, citing an almost palpable weight in the air when the bell is heard. Housekeepers have spoken of feeling chills, hearing the faint creak of the bell's supports, or sensing an unseen presence nearby, even when the tower is unoccupied. Longtime hotel managers describe the occurrence with a combination of reverence and trepidation, noting that the bell has never been associated with danger, but it does command attention in a way that is both beautiful and unnerving. The origin of the midnight bell remains a mystery. Some speculate it is the spirit of a former bell ringer, dedicated to their duty even after death. They imagine a figure in period attire ascending the tower nightly, fulfilling a ritual that was once a vital part of the hotel's operations. Others propose that it is a remnant of the hotel's history, an echo imprinted upon the building by countless celebrations, arrivals, and departures that once punctuated the bell's tone. Regardless of the explanation, the sound is undeniably deliberate, with a timing and resonance that suggests more than mere coincidence or mechanical malfunction. Witnesses often describe the bell's tone as carrying emotion, a mournful solemnity intertwined with grandeur. The resonance seems to evoke images of old Hollywood glamour, gala events, and late-night rendezvous, as though the bell itself remembers the stories and secrets of the hotel's past. Some guests have reported feeling a presence nearby, a quiet consciousness that observes without malice, as if the bell is a sentinel, ringing for those who appreciate its history, or for those it wishes to warn. Interestingly, the bell does not always ring in isolation. On rare occasions, it is accompanied by other subtle phenomena: faint whisper of music from the lounge, a sudden fluttering of curtains, or the sense that someone unseen is watching from the tower. These layered experiences suggest that the midnight bell may be part of a broader network of spectral activity within the hotel, a signal or anchor for other spirits who linger on the property. Longtime staff hint that the bell is a kind of marker, calling attention to the hotel's living history and its continuing relationship with the past. Some researchers and paranormal enthusiasts have attempted to capture the bell's toll using recording devices and cameras, but results are often inconclusive. Audio recordings occasionally pick up faint, low-frequency ringing. But when investigators arrive at the tower, there is nothing to be seen. Photographs reveal only the structure, bathed in moonlight or the glow of security lighting, yet the sound persists, independent of physical presence. This has only deepened the sense of mystery, as the bell seems to exist simultaneously as an object and as an echo of something beyond the material world. Guests who experience the midnight bell often speak of the lasting impression it leaves. Some wake with an adrenaline-fueled fear, compelled to record their experience in journals or recount it to friends. Others describe a reflective awe, as though the toll of the bell connects them to a continuum of history that stretches back through the hotel's storied past. Even skeptical visitors are often moved to pause, to listen intently, and to feel the weight of time as it resonates through the walls. Despite the unknown cause, the midnight bell has become a defining element of the hotel's enigmatic aura. It is not violent or threatening, yet it carries with it a profound presence that reminds all who hear it of the layers of life and death, of memory and spirit that inhabit the property. To stand in the gardens or gaze toward the tower as midnight approaches is to engage with the unseen, to sense the continuation of duty and presence beyond mortal life. Ultimately, the midnight bell of the Beverly Hills Hotel is a sound that transcends explanation. It is at once eerie and beautiful, a signal from the past, a reminder of the unseen, and a connection to the many souls who have passed through the hotel's history. Guests, staff, and researchers alike may never fully understand why it rings or who anyone is ringing it. Yet, for those who hear it, the toll resonates with the weight of history, memory, and lingering presence, making the Beverly Hills Hotel not just a place of luxury, but a realm where the past continues to whisper through every chime of the spectral bell. The Beverly Hills Hotel, a legendary landmark of glamour and Hollywood history, is known for its elegance, luxury, and star-studded past. Yet, among its many secrets and ghostly tales, none is quite as perplexing or as chilling as the presence, known simply as the Eternal Guest. This enigmatic figure has been reported by staff and visitors for decades, a silent witness to the hotel's ever-changing world, yet never seeming to depart. Unlike other spirits, whose haunts are tied to specific rooms, events, or objects, the Eternal Guest appears to move freely through the hotel, always observed but never fully caught. Accounts of the Eternal Guest often begin in the lobby, near the grand fireplace. Visitors relaxing in the plush chairs may glimpse a figure dressed in vintage attire, seated quietly, staring into the fire as if lost in thought. When they turn to greet or approach, the figure is gone, leaving the area completely empty. Guests report feeling a sudden chill, a brush of air that carries the faint scent of an era long past. Some have described the figure's clothing as reminiscent of early Hollywood glamour tuxedos and flowing gowns, polished and pristine, yet somehow out of time. The presence is not confined to the lobby. Many have encountered the Eternal Guest, wandering the lush gardens, strolling along the poolside, or lingering near the hotel's iconic pink facade. It is as though the spirit moves seamlessly through the property, exploring the spaces where life and history intersect. Staff members, who have worked at the hotel for decades, tell stories of checking the halls at night and spotting a shadowy figure walking slowly, only for the hallway to appear deserted moments later. The apparition does not interact aggressively. It does not speak or touch, yet its very presence is unnerving, a reminder that the hotel harbors more than living guests. Some believe that the Eternal Guest may have been a former owner or influential figure in the hotel's history, someone so attached to the property that their spirit refused to depart. Others speculate that it could be a famous guest from Hollywood's golden era, a star who spent so much time in the hotel that their essence became inseparable from it. Whatever the origin, the appearance is always subtle but unmistakable, a quiet reminder of the hotel's storied past and the lives that have passed through its doors. Encounters often involve an unsettling combination of sight and sensation. Guests describe a feeling of being watched, a heaviness in the air, or the sensation of a presence lingering just beyond the edge of vision. Some have felt a sudden tug of emotion, as if the spirit is recalling a memory of happiness, loss, or longing. Witnesses report that the figure often appears during quiet hours, when the lobby is nearly empty or the gardens are deserted. The silence seems to amplify its presence, making the moment feel suspended in time. The Eternal Guest has been observed at all hours. Late at night, staff making their rounds report seeing the figure moving gracefully through hallways, pausing at the reception desk or near the elevators before vanishing. Guests arriving early in the morning sometimes catch a glimpse through the lobby's grand windows, noticing a figure seated in a chair that should be empty. Attempts to approach are met with the same mystery. The apparition disappears or blurs into the surrounding space as if existing on a plane just beyond the physical world. Interestingly, there is a sense of benignity surrounding the Eternal Guest, unlike more mischievous or aggressive spirits reported elsewhere in the hotel. This presence does not move objects, produce sounds, or startle visitors. Instead, it seems to observe, a quiet witness to the ebb and flow of life at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Staff often refer to the apparition as respectful, almost courteous, as if it knows its place within the living world and chooses not to disturb it. Some have even found the presence comforting, a spectral guardian of sorts, silently connecting the present to the past. Paranormal researchers have attempted to document the Eternal Guest, but like most ghostly phenomena, it defies easy explanation. Security cameras sometimes capture flickers or vague shapes that resemble a human figure. Yet, upon review, the images are ambiguous, offering no concrete identification. Audio recordings rarely pick up more than the ambient sounds of the lobby or gardens, with no distinct voices or footsteps. This has only deepened the aura of mystery, making the Eternal Guest an enduring enigma in the hotel's tapestry of spectral stories. Guests who experience the apparition often share similar reactions, a mix of awe and curiosity tinged with a hint of fear. Some feel compelled to linger near the area where the figure appeared, hoping for another glimpse or a sign of recognition. Others, overwhelmed by the intensity of the encounter, move quickly, glancing back nervously to see if the figure follows. For many, the experience leaves a lasting impression, a memory intertwined with the hotel's glamour and history, but colored by the presence of something unseen and eternal. The Eternal Guest embodies the spirit of the Beverly Hills Hotel itself, a place steeped in history, filled with stories of love, loss, fame, and fortune. It serves as a living connection to the past, a reminder that the hotel is more than just a collection of rooms, gardens, and suites. It is a place where the lives of countless individuals have intersected, and where some, it seems, never truly leave. In the end, the identity of the Eternal Guest remains a mystery, perhaps intentionally so. The figure continues to move through the hotel, silent and observant, a testament to the layers of history embedded in every corner of the property. Guests, staff, and even the most skeptical visitors leave with a sense of having witnessed something extraordinary. A fleeting encounter with a presence that exists beyond time, neither living nor fully gone. The Eternal Guest is not a spirit of malice, but of persistence, a living memory, walking among the living. Forever, part of the Beverly Hills Hotel. The Beverly Hills Hotel is a place where the glamour of Hollywood's golden era mingles with shadows from the past. Its walls, gardens, and corridors carry the energy of decades of stories, some joyous and some tragic. Whether you are drawn by the history, the luxury, or the tantalizing whispers of the supernatural, the hotel remains a fascinating intersection of reality and the spectral unknown. Each visitor leaves with a story, sometimes mundane, sometimes chillingly extraordinary, as the ghosts of the Pink Palace continue to walk among the living. In conclusion, the Beverly Hills Hotel is more than just a luxurious destination. It is a repository of memories, both joyous and eerie. Its haunted history offers an unforgettable experience for those willing to explore beyond the surface. Embracing both the glamour and the ghostly mysteries, as you stroll through its iconic halls, enjoy the beauty. But remember that every corner may hold a story, and every shadow might just be alive.